City of Stevens Point Common Council meeting, recorded April 19, 2021.
I'll keep an eye on the room and try and continue to let people in, but it is 7 o'clock and I will call the regular meeting of the City of Stevens Point's Common Council to order. Clerk Yenter, would you please call the roll?
Jennings.
Here.
Shore.
Here.
Nabel.
Here.
Zarazua.
Here. Mute that.
Johnson.
Here.
Slowinski.
Here.
Kneebone.
Here.
Leak.
Here.
Dalton.
Here.
Fischler.
Here.
Morrow.
Here.
Okay, we have a full council. Would you please join me in our salute to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. There we go. Thank you all for joining us this evening. Spring was there. I hope you had a great spring. We're back into winter. There's flurries going as I speak. I wanted to point out a few things. Danny Ruskowski from the wastewater department has announced a retirement. He will be retiring on May 3rd after 36 years of service with the wastewater utility. So I want to thank him very much for his service. I know that most everybody who wants to get a vaccine is either on the list, in the process, or has already been fully vaccinated. Therefore, next month, we will resume in-person meetings. We'll start out with May as a hybrid because not everybody may be fully vaccinated by that time. But I expect in June that we will have all in-person meetings again, getting us back doing business together. Congratulations to Ginger Keemer, who is the newly elected 3rd District Alderperson. She will take her oath of office tomorrow and resume meetings tomorrow at 4 p.m. for our reorganizational meeting. Speaking of the vaccine, we are going ahead right now planning events, not just the City of Stevens Point, but events with Create and the Downtown Business Association, Downtown Stevens Point rather, and many others. We're doing this anticipating that we're going to be in a better place. But I still see people who are choosing not to get vaccinated, choosing almost defiantly not to wear a mask when they're in public places or observe that social distancing recommendation by the health department and the CDC. If we're not in a better place, these events may not happen. And I don't want to do that as the stick in the carrot thing, but it's a reality. We can't be putting people at risk of becoming sick any more than we would if we knew there was a flu epidemic or a smallpox outbreak. Do the right thing. Get yourself vaccinated, protect you, protect your family, protect those around you, and we can get back to a normal kind of life sooner. But I want to be very clear that if we're not in a better place, we may cancel some of those events. We may have to go back on lockdown like they've done in several countries in Europe. And I don't want to see that happen. So please, get vaccinated, be safe, just a while longer. You know, one of the primary objectives I had when becoming mayor was to find ways to include more people in their city government. Not everyone will remember how difficult it was just a few short years ago. Part of that objection was relaxing some of the stricter rules when it came to our meetings. I used to see people nervous at our meetings, and then even more unsure when they were told that they were out of order or that they wanted to say something that they weren't allowed to say on an item, or maybe it wasn't a particular topic. I saw people stop coming to the meetings. Rules are necessary, of course, but with a little latitude, it seemed to make everyone a little more comfortable joining in our decision making. There were things that some would say stepped over the lines of decorum, tiaras worn at meetings, people eating at their desk while participating in person or in Zoom virtual sessions. And these things took away from the formalities of government. But I also think it relaxed the environment, allowing people to see that we're not just stuffed shirts sitting up in the marble tower downtown, that we're people. We are just like everyone else. We live in this community. We love this community. And I think that relaxed environment allowed people to feel a little more comfortable when they were attending or participating in the meetings. It's worked. There's been some criticism from some on council that we're not following Robert's Rules of Order strictly enough. And I'd say that's true. We're not obligated to do so either. Robert's rules are there to provide a framework and guidance on running meetings, orders of business, and very formal, structured conduct in a meeting. I've been involved in some form of city government since 2004, and we've never had a strict adherence to Robert's rules. First and foremost, it's about allowing that participation and letting people feel comfortable with their government. Emails from alderpersons have been critical of the way our chairs introduce a topic, agenda item, or provide information on a topic. Let me amend that. They have been critical of the way I introduce a topic, items, or provide background information. Robert's rules, as they pointed out, state that the chair should not participate in debate. Now, I think debate means trying to stress the merits of one side or the other, but that may not be the case. Fine, we'll try it their way for a bit. But I don't think it lends itself to sound decision-making when we don't have the ability to get that narrative at a meeting, to answer questions at a meeting, or to correct misinformation and need to rely on a memo as your only source. It's also been pointed out that Robert's Rules of Order require a motion made before the item can be discussed. So someone's supposed to make a recommendation on an agenda item without having the opportunity to ask questions, raise concerns, or have peer feedback. That seems very silly to me. When someone makes a motion to approve or deny an item, they should have a chance to get questions answered, to find out what staff thinks, or more importantly, what the public thinks. After all, it's the public we serve. One of the first things I advocated for as mayor was changing our ordinances to require us to allow that public participation and allow the public to speak on every action item. It's sad that it had to come to that, but it hadn't been done before. And if you need to make a motion, even before the public has an opportunity to speak, that's wrong in my book. This one goes against everything I believe as a person and as your mayor. But because there seems to be some who want to insist we more strictly follow Robert's rules, we'll give it a try. We'll take the good with the bad. After all, we wouldn't want to pick and choose which rules fit our narrative at the moment. Robert's rules states that all discussion go through the presiding officer. Comments and questions shall be directed through the chair. This means no direct questions to staff or other alders. It further states that each member must be recognized by the chair to speak and speak no more than twice on any item. To me, that limits our discussion, and I don't like that one bit, but the rules are rules, so we'll give it a try. Now, there are many more pages in Robert's Rules of Order and several additions as those rules get amended and updated. There are basic, general rules of the meeting, and then they can get really into the weeds as specifics. We'll try to stay very general for now and see how things go. I'm not optimistic that we'll be creating a welcoming, transparent environment for citizens to participate. I don't even think it's a majority of the council that feels this way, as those few, but I'm willing to try it for a while, and we'll see what happens. With that, item number 4 is persons who wish to address the mayor or council on a specific agenda item must register their request at this time. Those who wish to address the common council during a public hearing are not required to identify themselves until the public hearing is declared open by the mayor. I already have Alder Kneebone, Alder Jennings, Morrow, and Johnson, and Nancy Roppy wished to speak on item number 21. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on a specific agenda item or take their 3 minutes on a non-agenda item?
Okay. I want to speak on item 16.
And your name?
Becky Crescent.
Becky Crescent. Item number 16 is the acquisition of 325 Division Street. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, I have it noted.
All right, thank
Anyone
you.
else? Alder Nabel?
I would like to speak on 2 items.
Okay, hang on. Your name, sir?
Stephen Klein.
Which items?
Item 16 and item 25.
Stephen Klein. And item number 25 is the zoning code rewrite.
Yes.
Okay. Alder Nabel, you?
Excuse me. Thank you, Mayor. I would like to discuss item number, I can find it here. Number 22, the section.
Alderperson, you do not need to register as you are part of the body, at
Okay,
least for today.
all right.
So you are welcome to speak on item 20, any item when it comes up as an alderperson.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Mr.
Yes.
Olson,
Krista, yes, your item?
item 11, McDowell dredging permit.
Okay. And someone on the Galaxy A51.
Item 16,
And your name?
Fred Kelkoven.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Say item 16.
Pam?
Item 16,
And your name, Pam?
Pam Lloyd,
I'm sorry, your last name again?
Lloyd, Lloyd.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Just going through our list, we've got 43 participants. That's great to see. Anyone else wishing to speak on a specific agenda item or up to 3 minutes on a non-agenda item? Oren Jacobson notes that he would like to speak on item number 25. Okay, anyone else? Okay, then we will move on to item number 4, which is persons who wish to address the mayor and council for up to 3 minutes regarding a non-agenda item. And we have Alderperson Mary Kneebone.
One of the nice things about being the Alder liaison to police and fire is that I get to brag about the police officers and the firefighters who serve our city. This month at the Police and Fire Commission, the fire department, Chief Finn gave their annual report. And I took some notes and just have some quick stats to let everybody know what a great job these folks do to serve our city. They did 2,187 ambulance runs in the city last year. By far the most, the incident that got the most runs were falls. So everybody be careful out there. They've done a lot of training. The cleaning system they used to sanitize the ambulances during the COVID issues we've had exceeded the CDC standards. So we were very well protected. They had 1,031 fire runs, and they saved a little over $4 million in property value because of their training and their expertise. And we only lost a little less than $400,000 of property value due to fire. So we're just in a great place with great public servants. So kudos to the fire department. Thank you.
Thank you. And next up, we have Alder Jennings.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Each year following the April election, city alders and the mayor take part in a procedure known as reorganization or reorg. During reorg, committee and board appointments are made and chairs selected. My comments today are intended to publicly shed light on a problem with our reorg process under the current mayor. I have exhausted all avenues of communication regarding this matter and am therefore bringing the issue before council and the public. If anyone has questions about the veracity of this statement, I urge you to reach out to our city attorney and consult with him. The focus of the problem is power, specifically domination. The mayor misuses the chair's seat on commissions and boards to dominate debate and influence decisions. Why is this a problem? The mayor's behavior as chair is at variance with the measured and impartial expectations set forth in Robert's Rules of Order. This problem persists despite Mayor Weese's knowledge of parliamentary procedure. The duties of chair are to facilitate a meeting. If they participate in discussions, chairs must follow rules that apply to other members. Instead, Mayor Wiese engages in lecturing, criticizing, and speaking for and over staff. He uses his leadership position to influence discussion. Given their frequency, it's easy to find examples of any of these behaviors. This month's Plan Commission meeting was a classic example. However, the mayor's behavior has become normalized to the extent that it goes largely unchallenged. A further misuse of the chair's seat occurs because since 2015, Mayor Wiese has recommended himself as Public Works Chair and appointed himself Plan Commission Chair. Alders know that statute dictates that mayors chair Common Council, but no city ordinance or standing rule requires our mayor to chair any other committees, commissions, or boards. This, along with the mayor's domination as chair, concentrates power into the executive branch and undermines the authority of the legislative branch. City alders have acquiesced to this. In conclusion, the mayor already has numerous ways to express his opinion. He can draft a memo, use the city's website, hold a press conference, make a press release, post on social media, etc. What he cannot and should not do is use the chair's seat to dominate decision-making. The council confirms the mayor as chair of Public Works and Plan Commission. By doing so, we are complicit in maintaining an unequal power structure, one that demoralizes staff, committee and commission members, and undermines the integrity of our government. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Alderperson Sean Morrow.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank Ron. I'd like to thank Ron Carlson for his service on the Police and Fire Commission. The Police and Fire Commission has been lauded a lot, and it's been for political reasons. This is very concerning with the level of experience that is currently on, with it also being chaired by Gary Westcott, who is the longest serving mayor, who has more experience than anyone that has more experience than anyone on city council now. People need to understand that the whole process is there for a reason. The process protects the city, and it also protects the employee as well from false allegations. As we have seen from our own elections, people can say whatever they want, and they can also lie until they're in formal legal proceedings, when they are compelled to tell the actual truth. Taking action before the actual facts are known can also put the employee at risk and make the city liable. And I know the process is a long drawn out process, but the process is there for a reason. And trying to take action before the facts are actually known, as I said, puts the city at risk, and also discourages anyone who would want to be on the Police and Fire Commission as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And last one I have is Alderperson President Johnson.
Excuse me, pardon me. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for the opportunity. Last month, while preparing supper for my granddaughter's birthday celebration, I received a call. It was from a reporter. The reporter wanted my comments on a letter leaked to the press, as well as some related comments from the mayor. The gist of the situation was that I was being blamed for the non-reappointment of an individual to the Police and Fire Commission, or the PFC, as Alder Murrow was just referring to. Somehow the mayor took my repeated calls to have a PFC that better reflected the community, to have the makeup be more diverse, as a call to not reappoint current members because of their gender and race. This decided manipulation of my words, my concerns, and my hopes for greater inclusion left me horrified, dismayed, and shocked. After all, we know that the mayor never intended, as early as last fall, to reappoint those commissioners. The situation has left the community battered. It created unwanted fear that somehow diversity means excluding majority populations. It set back the work of so many who fought to help marginalized groups not be left on the margins, and it undermined the efforts of justice, inclusion, diversity, and equality. It was a sad moment. One of my favorite historical figures is Winston Churchill. While he is famous for many quotes, the one that applies here and now is this: "Those that fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it." No one can change what transpired over the course of the last few weeks. However, we have an opportunity to learn from it and to heal. The focus of my recent campaign, as it will be for my next term on council, is moving point forward. We must be focused on listening to understand, not just listening to respond. We must patiently and respectfully work through disagreements. We must be absolutely zeroed in on creating a welcoming and inclusive community. And our number one goal must be to ensure this great city is the best place in Wisconsin to live, work, play, and do business and succeed. To do anything else means we all fail. Finally, I want to acknowledge my dear friend of over 50 years, Cindy Nabel. She has been a tireless champion for strengthening neighborhoods and building opportunities across this city. It has been my distinct honor to serve with her, just like it was great fun to study with her way back in the early 1970s. Thank you, Cindy, for your service. And thank you for the time, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. We have two presentations today, and I thought normally we would have one. However, these are both important and present. So I thought it'd be a good idea to have two presentations. So I thank you very much for accommodating. First up, we have Sarah Brish, who's the Executive Director of the Stevens Point Area Convention and Visitors Bureau, now in their new downtown location, talking a little bit about the signs around town, the wayfinding signs, and I guess giving us an update on something that we've been working on for a while. Sarah, do you want to run the PowerPoint, or do you want me to run the copy you gave me?
Either way, I'm happy to do it.
Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn over hosting to you. That way you don't have to say click, Mike, click. And once that is over, I would appreciate you turning the hosting back to me.
Awesome. All right, so thank you, Mr. Mayor, and greetings, everyone. Just wanted to bring you up to date on a couple of things that have transpired over the last several months. So the City of Stevens Point, what I'm going to present on is the City of Stevens Point Community Signage Project. So this transformed over the last several years, actually. And partially because several years ago, we brought in a secret shopper to come in and evaluate the community. And while she was here over several occasions with her guests, we noticed when she was researching the region, including ease of access to the community and directional signage, that the consultant found that what visitors are really experiencing were we had an over and abundance of wayfinding signage, no consistency throughout, and quite frankly, the number of signs was overwhelming to our visitors. And so at that time, the city had agreed that there was a wayfinding signage nightmare in the community, but at that point didn't take any action. Fast forward until now, and the conversation has sprung up again, partially because our organization recently moved, and so the Visitor Information Center is currently listed on the tombstone signage that's throughout the community. And we recognize that we need to update the signage that reflects our location. And during that time, as I talked to Mayor and Scott and Ryan, we acknowledged, that we do indeed have a signage problem. As you can see here, the number of signs is overwhelming. There are over 20 tombstone signs, 20 to 30 center point cupola signs, and there are dozens of bike route signs and numerous independent signs like Farmers Market, MSTC, downtown. I saw one today for the library. I feel like every time I drive down some of the major connectors in the community, whether that be Division or Clark or Hoover and others, I keep finding pop-up signs. So what Scott and I decided late last year is that we would set aside dollars, both the Convention and Visitor Bureau and the city, to repair and replace just the tombstone signage. And during that process, we also recognized that, you know, there's just way too many. So my recommendation, I'm going to keep this quick, is that the city remove all of the existing wayfinding signage, all the cupola signage, all of the tombstone-like signage, and some of the one-off signage that's throughout the community. And replace those signs with consistent, easy to read, community branded signage. Placemaking is a huge part of the city's strategic plan moving forward. And so I would recommend hiring a consultant to develop a community signage package that falls into the, placemaking that we've been talking so much about. So, again, consistent, easy to read, community branded signage is something that allows us to really be competitive with some of our peers across the state and the nation. I have a couple of signage projects on the screen right now. One is Fond du Lac. So Fond du Lac recently did a community branded project, again, making it consistent. So when people enter the community of Fond du Lac, the city entrance signs utilize the same fonts and color schemes as all of the other signage that's placed throughout the community. And so same with the Fox Cities area. Theirs is a little different in that they have community-wide signage. So their signage is not only in the city of Appleton, but in some of the outlining communities as well. And those communities are designated on the bottom of each of the Fox City signs, which I kind of like. And, maybe down the line, we can talk to the Village of Clover, Amherst, and some of the other surrounding municipalities to see if they would be interested in doing something similar. So as I stated earlier, I'm just, for now, I'm recommending that the city consider for the 2022 budget, hiring a company that specializes in placemaking and signage to review the current sign program that we have in the community and create consistent signage throughout. So Mayor said I had to keep it short because there was 2 presentations tonight. So unless there's any immediate questions, I will turn the host back over to you.
Thank you, Sarah. And if anybody does have questions, you can certainly stop by and ask Sarah the questions at the new location, downtown Stevens Point. Check out the merchandise. We'll take some, just a little bit of liberty here. Normally we don't do this, but President Johnson, you had a question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Sarah. As always, I love your presentation, your ideas. Now that the county is part of North Central Regional Planning Commission, and actually the county thinking more globally to be inclusive of not only the city of Stevens Point, but Whiting and Plover and Amherst and Nelsonville, do you think that there's an opportunity for the county to kind of blend into this so that we're not running at cross purposes in an effort to try and create that consistency with wayfaring signage?
Yeah, absolutely. So very similar to the Fox Cities model, I think we could probably mimic something similar in the Stevens Point area, including all of Portage County.
Thank you.
So maybe that's a greater conversation with county government to see if we could do something countywide.
Absolutely. I love the idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you for taking the time to join us tonight. Next up, we have, this comes to us from Alderperson Makira Zarazua, who introduced me to Kevin McAdam, who there's a concept going around about peer-to-peer support groups, but in a senior environment, or the older people in our communities or communities around the state. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Kevin, who's going to talk to us a little bit about his Village to Village program. Kevin?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. If you could, I'd like to do a screen share.
Absolutely. Let me make you the host. And then, of course, under the promise that you will have to return that hosting
I will.
when you're done.
Thank you. This came about because my daughter gave me a book that talked about two villages. One was in Central Florida, in which you bought into a very expensive piece of real estate and everything was planned for you and life became one giant party. And the other was a group of people in Beacon Hill, Massachusetts, who in 2002 said, you know, we'd really like to stay in our homes as we get older. And they formed this voluntary virtual village in Beacon Hill. And it's been going ever since. And the more I looked at it, the more intrigued I became and thought, jeepers, you know, this sounds like something that our community could really use. So I did some more research and found out that these virtual villages were grassroots, and there's now over 350 of these villages across the United States and the world. They generally take the form of a nonprofit corporation, charitable 501c3. They're completely voluntary and self-governing. They use volunteers, sometimes paid staff. The members drive and govern it, and they support one another. And some of these villages have dues and others did not, and many write and receive grants, up to the tune of millions of dollars in the state of California, for example. So I kept exploring. And the other thing, you know, that was apparent was that, you know, you sort of had to say, well, what is it not going to do? Because these villages vary very widely. It's not a healthcare provider, and obviously in life there are no guarantees. It can't keep you in place for sure, but it can certainly help. And then the data that came in, University of North Carolina and Brigham Young did a number of studies on these villages and found that it led to increased cognitive and better mental health and longer, happier lives. And I said, jeepers, you know, this just sounds really great. So ARP jumped in about 10 years ago and did a nationwide survey. And the thing that surprised me was that, you know, people at age 18 through 49 said they want to stay in their homes and didn't want to move. And that became even more a majority of adults over 50. Many of them, just as the model in our community, own their own homes. Oop, I skipped. But the end result of the whole survey by AARP was that majority of adults want to stay in their homes and in their communities, and they're willing to pay an annual fee to do so. So is this a reality now? No, it is not. We are just starting. We actually got started in November. There's a lot of things that we need to do to get this thing operational. And it always takes a team of people willing to invest time. We're a member, I joined the Village to Village Network, which is this group of 350 villages across the world. We have a budget estimate to form a corporation. We have materials for potential members. We have a research library that's part of the Village to Village Network that will help support us. We have a mentor, and she is the executive director of Sail Village in Madison, Wisconsin, which has 500 members, by the way. And as I mentioned before, there's 350 of these villages, one in Madison, one recently founded over in Manitowoc. There's 5 in the Chicago area. We've explored the software that it would take to run this village. We have a steering committee of about 12 people in place already. And we scheduled this information session for you. And we're doing the same for the community on a wide level, in many respects through Cindy Petrusky at the ADRC. She has published the schedule of these presentations for the people who use the ADRC. And there are certain core principles. And obviously the one is that we help seniors maintain their independence, to stay at home and engage in their communities. We use volunteerism to pay it forward. And we're very interested in keeping them connected to the community, to the programs and services that exist already. It's completely grassroots, self-governing and self-supporting thing. The services that we've talked about so far, and this came through the county's aging survey that was done a couple of years back, and which is now starting to get underway, was that transportation needed to be more flexible. While the county offers transportation through the ADRC, it is not as flexible as the seniors wanted it to be. It also will provide some in-home assistance, and there'll be a social aspect of this organization as well. We also hope to be another service and information resource center for people who are aging and who need support of various types, and let them know where they can find that. And we've been exploring what functions we need, obviously management and administration, event planning. We need some very passionate researchers who will find out what's going on in these other communities that might be a benefit to our community. We'd like to get some pro bono legal and financial help where that's possible. We need to do surveys and find out, when we have this group of interested members assembled, what do they want? And then we're going to need to do some business planning and fundraising. As I said, we established a steering committee already, and we've been looking at what we would need to do and finding out whether local people are interested. So far, I have, Mayor, do you want me to admit people to the meeting?
Yes, please.
Okay, got it, done. We have about 22 people who have expressed some interest after I've done my presentation. And then obviously, what are we going to deliver, and what does the community not provide right now? We've already got an EIN, and we're looking at doing a 501c3 charitable corporation, IRS tax exempt. We're working with Cindy Petrusky right now, and if the council wants us to do any particular things that we need to explore, we're certainly open to that. I'll be presenting to the LIFE program at the university tomorrow. So we want to really tack on to the existing resources and services that are being done. We need to get a better name, I think, than Portage County Stay at Home. But that'll be a vote of the membership. We're trying to get as many community meetings like this as possible so that people are exposed to the concept. We'll be getting an internet domain and a website and a Facebook page and a member database. Any questions? I'm wide open.
Thank you very much, Kevin.
I'll
I
turn
do
it back
have
to
one
you.
question for you.
Yeah.
If someone wants to get in touch with you to learn more about the Village to Village program or Portage County Stay at Home, how can they get in touch with you other than the email that we see on your screen, which is pcstayathome@pm.me?
You can get in touch with me at 715-630-9079. That's my cell. Or 254-0608. That's my home.
Thank you very much, Kevin. And thank you for joining us. It's a very
Thank you.
interesting concept, and I'm sure we'll be hearing more about that in the very near future. All right, our presentations are over. We will move on to item number 6, which is our consent agenda, page 5 of your packets. President Johnson?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Seconded by Alderperson Nabel. Discussion. Hearing and seeing none, clerk, would you please call the roll?
Morrow, Morrow,
Aye.
Fischler,
Aye.
Dalton,
Aye.
Leek,
Aye.
Kneebone,
Aye.
Slowinski,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Zarazua,
Aye.
Nabel,
Aye.
Shore,
Aye.
Jennings.
Aye.
Unanimous consent, that's approved. Item number 7 begins on page 47 of your packet, and that's to award project 2106 to Fisher Brothers LLC in an amount not to exceed $40,500 for the Donald Cops Municipal Pool Water Slide Rehabilitation. Entertain a motion. Alder Nabel.
Lee, I'll second that.
Thank
Okay.
you. Alder Nabel, I would like to approve that recommendation for this water slides.
Motion by Nabel, seconded by Leek to approve the bid. Discussion.
This is Alder Morrow. This has been way overdue for years. The pool has had problems. As a person who swims a lot, I'm very happy to see this finally going forward.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, clerk, would you please call the roll?
Jennings.
Aye.
Shore,
Aye.
Nabel,
Aye.
Zarazua,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Slowinski,
Aye.
Kneebone,
Aye.
Leek,
Aye.
Dalton,
Aye.
Fischler,
Aye.
Morrow.
Aye.
That is unanimous approval as well. On page 49 of your packet, you'll see item 8, which is a resolution, a request from the city of Stevens Point for a conditional use permit to construct a restroom facility at Iverson Park at 4201 Main Street. I'd entertain a motion. Alder Kneebone.
Since Iverson is in my district, I would like to move approval of this long overdue project.
Thank you. Is there a second? Seconded by Shore. Discussion. Hearing and seeing none. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Morrow,
Aye.
Fischler,
Aye.
Dalton,
Aye.
Leek,
Aye.
Kneebone,
Aye.
Slowinski,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Zarazua,
Aye.
Nabel,
Aye.
Shore,
Aye.
Jennings.
Aye.
Unanimous consent, that is approved. Item number 9 begins on page 50 of your packet, and that's a resolution, a request from Lineage Logistics LLC for a conditional use permit to allow meatpacking to occur at Lineage Logistics with the parcel identified in your packet. Need a motion? President Johnson.
Motion to approve the conditional use permit for Lineage Logistics.
Thank you.
I second it. Alder
Seconded
Morrow.
by Morrow. Discussion. Hearing and seeing none. Clerk, please call the roll.
Jennings,
Aye.
Shore,
Aye.
Nabel,
Aye.
Zarazua,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Slowinski,
Aye.
Kneebone,
Aye.
Leek,
Aye.
Dalton,
Aye.
Fischler,
Aye.
Morrow.
Aye.
Unanimous consent, that is approved. Page 52 takes us to item number 10 on our agenda, and that's an ordinance amendment, a request from the city of Stevens Point to amend the official street map of the city of Stevens Point to extend EM Cops Drive 1,000 feet, or 100 feet rather, to the east. Motion?
This is Alder Slowinski. I'll move approval.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Alder Morrow, I second.
Thank you, Alder Morrow. Discussion. Hearing none, Clerk Yenter, please call the roll.
Morrow,
Aye.
Fischler,
Aye.
Dalton,
Aye.
Leek,
Aye.
Kneebone,
Aye.
Slowinski,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Zarazua,
Aye.
Nabel,
Aye.
Shore,
Aye.
Jennings.
Aye.
And that is unanimously approved. Item number 11 is on page 55 of your packet, and that's a resolution. A request from Kyle Brettel, representing the McDill Inland Lake Protection and Rehabilitation District for a conditional use permit to dredge the northern portion of McDill Pond. We'll need a motion first.
This is Alder Fischler. I move approval.
Thank you. A second.
This is Alder Slowinski. I'll second.
Thank you. We had Krista Olson registered to speak. Krista?
Just want to say thank you for the city for working with us and continuing to work on McDill Pond. Just a couple checks on the depths on McDill this week, and we are definitely getting below 3 feet for some of the waterway channels where people navigate. So we're looking forward to moving forward with dredging McDill.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Jennings.
Aye.
Shore,
Aye.
Nabel,
Aye.
Zarazua,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Slowinski,
Aye.
Kneebone,
Aye.
Leek,
Aye.
Dalton,
Aye.
Fischler,
Aye.
Morrow.
Aye.
Thank you very much. That is unanimously approved as well. Page 57 takes us to item number 12, which is a resolution, a request from the city of Stevens Point for a conditional use permit to construct access roads and associated parking spaces at the Stevens Point Municipal Airport, parcels identified in your agenda. A motion? President Johnson?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Alder Kneebone, was that a second?
Yes.
Seconded by Alderperson Kneebone. Discussion. Hearing and seeing none. Clerk Enter, please call the roll.
Morrow,
Aye.
Fischler,
Aye.
Dalton,
Aye.
Leek,
Aye.
Kneebone,
Aye.
Slawinski,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Zarazua,
Aye.
Nabel,
Aye.
Shore.
Aye.
Jennings.
Aye.
Unanimous consent, that is approved. Item number 13 is a resolution, a request from DJ Rice Development LLC to amend the plans for the planned development zoning district relating to the Grant School redevelopment to allow for a single family or zero lot line use. Motion? We'll give it to Zarazua. And is there a second? Second by Nabel. Discussion. Hearing and seeing none. Clerk, please call the roll.
Jennings,
Aye.
Shore,
Aye.
Nabel,
Aye.
Zarazua,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Slawinski,
Aye.
Kneebone,
Aye.
Leek,
Aye.
Dalton,
Aye.
Fischler,
Aye.
Morrow.
Aye.
Unanimously approved. Item number 14 begins on page 59 of your packet, and that's consideration of an amended development agreement with DJ Rice Development LLC. Chair would entertain a motion. Zarazua moves. Second by
I'll second Fischler.
Keely Fischler. Discussion. Hearing and seeing none. Clerk, please call the roll.
Morrow,
Aye.
Fischler,
Aye.
Dalton,
Aye.
Leek,
Aye.
Kneebone,
Aye.
Slawinski,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Zarazua.
Aye.
Nabel,
Aye.
Shore.
Aye.
Jennings.
Aye.
Unanimously approved. Item number 15 begins on page 84 of your packet, and that's a development agreement with Secure Fund LLC for the property at 209 Division Street, also known as the Point Motel. Alder Jennings.
I'll move to approve the development agreement with Secure Fund.
Thank you. Is there a second? Seconded by President Johnson. Discussion.
Alder Morrow.
Yes, sir.
The $2 million that is being granted in this TIF is kind of concerning. And that's one of the, I know that the Point Motel is a blight, but the amount of money that's being asked for this seems kind of over the top for what we're going to be getting from this. So that's why I'm not going to be voting for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderperson. Any other discussion?
This is Alder Slawinski, and I'm going to exactly echo Alder Shore, and I will not be supporting this as well. Thanks.
Thank you. Alder Dalton, you have your hand up.
Keeping with that course, I will echo the comments of my colleagues, Morrow and Slawinski, that I will not be supporting this this evening for question of the but-for test in this particular.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing and seeing none. Clerk Enter, please call the roll.
Jennings.
Aye.
Shore.
Aye.
Nabel.
Aye.
Zarazua.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Slawinski.
No.
Kneebone.
I'd like to abstain.
On what grounds, Alderperson?
Relationship with the property owner,
Current property
potential
owner.
conflict of interest.
The current property owner, not the developer.
Yes, I'm sorry, the current property owner.
Just want to be clear on that. I know you
yes.
had mentioned it before. I just wanted to state it again for public.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, Kneebone abstained. Leak,
Aye.
Dalton,
No.
Fischler,
Aye.
Morrow,
No.
I have a 7-3 with one abstention. Is that correct, clerk?
correct.
Okay, motion passes. Item number 16 begins on page 123 of your packet, and that's the acquisition of 325 Division Street, also known as the Maytag Laundromat. Need a motion? Alder Shore.
I move approval of the acquisition of 325 Division Street and would like to speak in favor during discussion. Thanks.
Thank you. Alder Leek, was that a second?
Yes.
Seconded by Alderperson Leek. I'll give the floor to our citizens who wish to speak first, and then I'll come back to you, Alder Shore, if that's all right with you. Okay, we had first signed up Becky Cresson.
Hi. My concern about this is we're looking at 315,000 for a property that on one hand, I hear we want to put a walking path in. On the other one, I hear we want to put in a 1-block street. The numbers aren't being given other than the 315,000 and possibly 40,000 to raise it. So the concern is with the street, how much would that cost? How much does the sidewalk cost? The street lights, or versus a walking path, how much is that costing? And are you just looking at a walking path on that? I'm assuming with the street, we're looking at least $500,000. And then we have the street upkeep on top of that. For a street that's really not necessary. 4th Avenue is 3 blocks down. Maria Avenue is over there, Franklin, Portage. It's never been an issue for somebody to use one of those streets to get to Isidore prior to this. As far as a walking path, that's not necessarily a bad idea. Right now with that fence there, it does make it difficult to obviously get through that area. So simply putting in a walking path sounds doable. I'm not sure why we need the whole property again to do that walking path. Is that something that could be worked out with the property owner to acquire part of it, or pay them to use part of it for the walking path, whatever it may be, so we're not spending 300 grand on this? Or if we're insistent on spending 300 grand, could we do something like put a walking path on this side of it and then the rest of it be used as a place to set up food trucks and picnic tables, or something that will actually bring the city income? Because we keep spending hundreds of thousands on things that we don't need to. We have taxes higher in Stevens Point than most of the surrounding areas. And we're looking at doing a project that I don't see any benefit from. I understand the university supports this to some degree, but as far as I remember, they need more parking and not less. And going through the middle of their parking lot takes away more parking. So I just don't understand why we're doing this. I don't understand why it's being just rushed through like this. And I'd like to see more numbers on this, more discussion on this before spending this amount of money. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Stephen Klein.
Yeah, I just would like to object to this. Again, it's a large amount of money for something we haven't needed it for the past however many years the university has been there. There's no afforded benefit to it. There's nothing on the other end other than the university. If the university feels they need this so badly, perhaps if they wanted to fund it, I know they have plenty of money and they could if they had any desire to. It's not really our problem if they want more access. Again, there's very little afforded benefit to the community, the people actually paying for this. No one's had troubles walking around in the past. There's no reason they should have a problem walking around in the future. That's all I got to say on that.
Thank you very much. Next up, I have Brent Kalkoven. Brent, are you with us? Not sure if they're having technical difficulties. So I will go back to Brett after we allow Pam Lloyd to speak. Pam?
It's off.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, I just have a short comment to make about this Agenda 16. And I'm just kind of tired of the reckless spending that's going on. And now Stevens Point wants to buy a building and raise it and then build a block long road, which is going to cost probably around $500,000. And this just isn't necessary. And I guess that's all I have to say about it.
Thank you, Pam. Brett, did I see you unmute yourself now?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can. Go ahead.
Good. I'm concerned about that 6th Avenue deal because the number of cars in the parking lot, there's already a shortage of parking. There's also a traffic concern when you get one more road coming onto Division Street, which is busy now. And I just don't see any need for it. And it just seems like the city's spending a lot of money on things we don't need. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, sir. And thank you all very much for participating in your local government. Bringing it back to the council. We have a motion to approve. Is there any discussion regarding the motion? Alder Shore, I'm sorry, I completely forgot about that. I apologize. Alder Shore.
No problem. I'm really enthusiastic and strongly supportive of this. It's something that I was hoping would happen, was encouraging to happen. And I'll talk a little bit about why I think it's so important, and can speak to some of the very helpful comments and questions raised by members of the public. First, there's the issue of purchasing the building and raising it, and is that kind of the same wrapped together with what we would do after that? I do think that this is kind of an all or nothing proposition in terms of purchasing the property and removing the building. This isn't something I think where we could just like go around the laundromat. Having said that, that piece of opening that way, and then the question of whether we would fully construct a street, I think those are separate. And that leads to the question of kind of driving versus walking. I don't know whether we really need to construct a street there, because my main reason for favoring this has to do with walkability. Walkability is something I always think is important. It's something I'm always pushing for. And that's because with driving, I actually agree with some of the speakers that there's enough to get from one place to another. 4th Avenue and Maria work fine. The problem is, in terms of walking, that the reason for one reason that you really have a problem with the kind of the pattern of like a strip mall and a lot of the blight that happens on a street like North Division is when blocks are too long. And it is not conducive to walking and therefore to businesses, which I'll make my final point in a minute, to have such a long block, to have to go around. I think this is actually really important to open this way between Isidore and Division. Now, finally, in terms of, is this just something that's being done for the university? Like I was saying just a minute ago, a big reason for doing something like this is how it has been shown with shorter blocks, with more walkability, that really drives more business. And so this is not something just being done for the university. If anything, it's to help get spending by students into the local economy, into local businesses. So thank you again for the members of the public for those comments. I think this is a terrific opportunity. Thanks.
Thank you, Alder Shore. We have Alder Morrow and then President Johnson.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan, but I believe this was in the planned Business 51 plan that we had for us to try to do try to push this street through and try to make this like the main entrance to the college. I think that's what the main goal of this was.
Director Kanowski, could you please answer the question from the alderperson?
Of course. Yes. So the Division Street Targeted Area Master Plan, which was adopted about a year ago, which had numerous community input sessions, including input sessions from UWSP, did identify the extension of 6th Avenue to Isidore as part of the town to gown, reducing that divide that currently exists. The Business 51 planning that we're doing right now through the Public Works Department and AECom, we have been planning around the extension of 6th Avenue. I wouldn't say necessarily that it would serve as a main entrance into the campus itself, but would provide, as Alder Shore stated earlier, a less long of a block and would provide additional access for pedestrians, bicycles, and vehicles to Isidore from Division Street.
Thank you, Director. President Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Director Kraneski, and actually Alder Morrow, because I was moving in that direction as well. And I understand the concerns that this is all of a sudden on an agenda and the public is concerned, but the Division Street, the TIF 5 strategic vision was a plan that was well vetted by the public with numerous public meetings, tons of public input. And this was actually discussed as a part of that strategic vision. So it fits in well with the plans for that corridor. And it is for that reason that I support it. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? For Alder Kneebone.
I don't know if this is appropriate here, but I want to abstain on this one as well. Or do I wait till I vote? Because
we can note your abstention.
I have a relationship with the property owner's family that could be construed as a conflict of interest. So
current property owner's family, not the Lockery Corporation.
Right, the property owner.
Thank you.
Not Lockery, right.
Alder Slawinski, I saw you take yourself off of mute. Did you have a comment?
Yeah, I guess I have a few concerns. I kind of echo what some of the public comment has stated. I guess, first off, we're always saying parking's such an issue, but yet here we're going to potentially take away a nice amount of parking stalls close to the university. Secondly, I guess it just doesn't make sense to me. I was looking this property up. This property sold for like $250,000 last summer. Now we're paying $65,000 more. I mean, is this how we work? As we pay the high amount? I mean, This doesn't make any sense. Now we're going to stick another, what, $250,000, $300,000 to punch a road through there? Are the taxpayers in this city benefiting that much to spend that kind of money? It just doesn't make sense to me at all. Again, echo what some of the public comments are. This is reckless. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Alder Nabel.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have some hesitations here. I also know the family of this person that owns the property. Maybe I should be accusing myself, but it bothers me that in some ways, and I think this was very calculated by the owner, knowing there were plans. And so the city has to pay that extra money because, you know, someone's smarter and faster. That's part of life. And we happen that all the time. People are savvy, and if they're savvy, they jump on, and that's what's happened. But I do want to say that as a person that lives in the district, in the 3rd district, where this is somewhat, we do have problems with parking, but we also, you know, need to start looking at fixing those problems with the university and the city of finding outside parking areas like we've talked about but never done, so that we can do these kinds of things and not have parking taking up property area that we can use to develop. And I want to add on to one thing I realized as Alder Shore was bringing up about the businesses. I know that people I knew that worked at Taco Bell, for example, people were always climbing, breaking that fence to get across, to get over to other properties on Division Street, because that was such a long way around. So if you're walking or biking or anything, and that was happening constantly. And I'm sure if you ask some of those store owners, they would say how much they hate not having another block that people can walk through straight to Division. But no one's talked to them. And I think that I just know people that have worked at those places and they've talked about it. So there's been a lot of issues and a lot of garbage and everything else. And if we're trying to make our city look better, Division Street is a main opening coming in. So looking at that, we're trying to make that block not look like just this long stretch of blight. And those are 2 blighted buildings. And someone was smart enough to say, I know this city wants to do something and they want to get rid of the blight. And so looking at the fact that we're maybe paying more is just because somebody was smart enough to get in there faster when we didn't know that was even coming up, that was going to be able to be sold. So I don't think it's fair to blame it. It's that person being savvy business person. I do think that we need something to be able to get through there. And I do think that if we have property that's across the street by the bank there that used to be a car dealership that is empty, how are we going to want somebody to say, hey, we're going to develop that because now we have this access of students being able to get there, and maybe we should build something that they'll want to come to there. So it does take money to do that, to increase the other businesses across that road or on either side of that road of Division, to get people to be able to use it and to get some of that properties that have been empty or land that's just barren over there to be developed. Otherwise, we'll be paying money to have someone develop it because we won't have any access. Just give them a reason that they're here. We've made this for you. It's beautiful. Come. You build it, they will come. I think building that road will make that Division Street more used and those businesses get more business. So if you look at it that way, it is still using our economics wisely. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderperson. Any other comments?
Yes. Here, District 8. I'd like to support what Alderperson Nabel said. Just from the point of view of a student looking for some lunch. If you're in this area here, where I happen to be right now, there's Cousin Subs and there's Zest. And beyond that, it just seems pretty far to walk in some, not such a pleasant walk. If there was a way, I've certainly never hopped that fence, but if there were a way over there, there could be, there could be a lot more that you could develop there. And I think that'd be well worth it for the city to invest in, because those places would get a lot more business, as Alderperson Nabel said.
Thank you. Alderperson Zarazua.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just think important part of this is that a lot of time was spent on the Division Street targeted master plans, a lot of public input. I know I talked with a lot of constituents about it, and this is our first opportunity to start working towards that. So I mean, we know it's going to cost money to have this corridor look the way we want it to and function the way we want it to, but this is our first opportunity to do that. And yes, it has a big price tag, but everything that we do with that corridor is going to be expensive. I do think too, when you look at the plans as a whole, this is a part of how we want that whole area to look. So it's not just about opening this one section. It'll take time for the corridor to improve, but this is one of those steps in that direction.
Thank you. Any other comments? Hearing and seeing none. The motion is to approve the acquisition of 325 Division Street. If you're in favor, you'll vote yes. If you are opposed, you'll vote no, and the clerk will call the roll.
Morrow,
Aye.
Fischler,
Aye.
Dalton,
Aye.
Leek,
Aye.
Kneebone is abstained, Slowinski,
No.
Johnson,
Aye.
Zarazua,
Aye.
Nabel,
Aye.
Shore,
Aye.
Jennings.
Aye.
I have 9, 1, and 1. Is that correct?
Correct.
Motion is approved. Item number 17 is on page 137 of your packet, and that is to ratify the 2021-2023 tentative agreement with Central Transportation Employees, Local 309 of AFSCME AFL-CIO. Motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion
I'll
by
second.
Morrow, seconded by Lee.
Yeah.
Discussion. Hearing and seeing none. Clerk, please call the roll.
Jennings,
Aye.
Shore,
Aye.
Nabel,
Aye.
Zarazua,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye. Sorry.
Slowinski,
Aye.
Kneebone,
Aye.
Leek,
Aye.
Dalton,
Aye.
Fischler,
Aye.
Morrow.
Aye.
Unanimous consent, that is approved. Item number 18 is on page 145 of your packet, and that's to award the 2021 Street Improvement Project 21-1 to Gerke Excavating in an amount not to exceed $7,175,149.71. Those bids were in your packet. Need a motion?
Alder Slowinski, move approval.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second, Mayor. Kneebone.
Seconded by Kneebone. Discussion? Alder Shore.
Thank you, Mayor. I know that an important thing that we're keeping an eye on as part of the bigger budget picture for our capital budgets have been some pretty dramatic increases in that whole marketplace of street construction. So I thought if we could take a moment and hear about this bid, and maybe if the other bid also relates, what that's telling us about the most recent trends in those costs. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing no additional questions. Director Badoon, can you give us a little bit of background information on our philosophy with street improvements, reconstruction, maintenance, and talk a little bit about the bid environment that we're in.
Yes, absolutely. What we always try to do with these projects, of course, is, work within our budgets, come up with something that, we can tackle either with a consultant or ourselves to get out as early as possible. That's always one of the things we try to do. This year, we managed to do that better than we had in the past couple of years, even with some challenges to the project in the scope of what it was. We're actually out about a month earlier than we were last year. And I think that definitely helped us in our bids. And I think the environment is even much better than itself was last year, which is seen by the number of bidders we have. And in talking to those bidders as well, we understand that several of those bidders had not done so good on previous bids early in the year. So they were very hungry for work. And that also, I think, is reflected in both of these projects that we have for us tonight. So overall, the bid prices that we have are about 4% down from last year. So I think overall, the projects, the costs themselves are pretty much in line with last year. However, I think just the environment that we're in right now, it definitely helped us to bring those costs down. They did very much sharpen their pencils when they submitted their bids for us this year. So very happy to see that.
Thank you, Director. Motion before you is to approve the bid. If you are in favor, vote yes. If you are opposed, vote no, and the clerk can call the roll.
Morrow.
Aye.
Fischler.
Aye.
Dalton.
Aye.
Leek.
Aye.
Kneebone.
Aye.
Slowinski.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Zarazua.
Aye.
Nabel.
Aye.
Shore.
Aye.
Jennings.
Aye.
That motion is approved. Item number 19 is to award the 2021 road resurfacing project 21-02 to Merrill Gravel and Construction Company in an amount not to exceed $1,495,288.89. Motion?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Alder Morrow. Is there a second? Second by Zarazua. Discussion. Hearing and seeing none. Clerk, please call the roll.
Jennings.
Aye.
Shore.
Aye.
Nabel.
Aye.
Zarazua.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Slowinski.
Aye.
Kneebone.
Aye.
Leek.
Aye.
Dalton.
Aye.
Fischler.
Aye.
Morrow.
Aye.
That motion is adopted. Item number 20 is on page 150 of your packet. That's an ordinance amendment to approve the ordinance amendments as it relates to section 9.05 relating to parking. Motion? Zarazua moves. Is there a second? Seconded by President Johnson. Discussion. Zarazua.
I'm sorry I wasn't at the committee meeting last week. I was very sick, but this is something I've hoped for a long time. In our district, we really have a lot of smaller lots, and as we're doing the reconstruction projects, people are finding that they don't have room for the cars that their family members already have. So I know there are a lot of people that'll be thankful that this is hopefully going to pass finally.
Thank you. Alder Nabel.
Again, thank you, Mayor. Did we skip over something? Because I thought we didn't do the ordinance amendment on sections 905.
That's what we're on right now.
Okay, that was just so not the overnight parking.
Correct. We are not on the overnight parking issue yet.
Okay, that's what I thought. So I just wanted, okay.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we have a motion to approve the ordinance amendments relating to 9.05. Clerk will please call the roll.
Morrow.
Aye.
Fischler.
Aye.
Dalton.
Aye.
Leek,
Aye.
Kneebone,
Aye.
Slowinski,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Zarazua,
Aye.
Nabel,
Aye.
Shore,
Aye.
Jennings.
Aye.
And that is unanimously approved. Item number 21 is on page 151 of your packet, and that's an ordinance amendment also relating to section 9.05, but this time as it relates to overnight parking. Alder Zarazua,
Thank you.
is that a motion to approve?
I would move to approve. Sorry,
Thank
I
you.
skipped a page in the last.
That's all right. I kind of thought that was the case, but I wasn't going to judge.
Thank you.
Seconded by Alder Shore. Okay, and we have Nancy Roppy has signed up to speak. I will turn the floor over to you, ma'am. You have 3 minutes.
5 minutes, isn't it, on an agenda item? 5 minutes on an agenda item, 3 on a non-agenda.
I will grant you some additional time. Take your time. Go ahead.
Nancy Roppy, 925 Smith Street. This misguided overnight parking change proposal has been bungled from the beginning. I've lost count of the number of attempts to get this flawed proposal passed. It's been like a ping pong ball bouncing back and forth as it was committee shopped, looking for a favorable place to land. When it couldn't get through Public Works, it jumped to Public Policy and General Government, then back to Public Works, but not before a bad faith attempt to sneak it through the consent agenda at a Common Council meeting. That underhanded effort only failed because of a technicality. The latest scheme created a so-called blue ribbon panel to study the issue, another roundabout way to approve this unneeded solution to a non-problem. The public was promised blue ribbon panel meetings would be open to the public, but behind the scenes that changed to a staff-only meeting and the public was excluded. Punting responsibility to staff is merely a tactic to have someone to blame when things go bad, so you can claim you were only following staff recommendations when the complaints start pouring in. This whole debacle has been fraught with lies of omission and commission. Originally, it was to help out a lone teenager. Then it evolved into a quasi-social justice issue. If that was a real concern, you'd be calling for repeal of daytime parking fees, since they are much more serious financial burdens to a larger contingent of the population, namely college students who are least able to pay. You're not, which tells me social justice is nothing more than a convenient smokescreen. Now it's morphed into we need to help out poor landlords who have over-rented their underparked properties, a greed-based condition you created and endorsed by allowing underparked developments in the first place. You're attempting to fix your original mistake with another mistake. Both the street and police departments raised serious objections to allowing overnight parking. None of those concerns have changed. Both snow plowing and street sweeping are hindered when cars are parked on the street overnight. But staff has realized certain alders are not going to stop trying to ram through this ill-fated proposal and have finally given up and capitulated. The street department and the police department will have to deal with the consequences of overnight parking, as will already struggling neighborhoods in District 1 and 3. You can turn a blind eye if you think because you don't represent either of these two districts, it's not your concern. People will take advantage of this change like they did in the past when the police department regarded it as a nightmare. Only it will be much worse when underparked developments push tenant parking out onto the street. Vandals will love it. Thieves who steal catalytic converters will have a field day. At the last committee meeting, I asked for full disclosure and transparency before a vote by any alder with a personal interest in seeing this pass. If you operate an organic farm and need to park your farm trailer on the street overnight, you'll benefit from this change. If your boyfriend has a construction truck and trailer and you need to park it on the street overnight, you'll benefit from this change. If you're an alder and you fit into this narrow category of overnight parking beneficiaries, and you've been one of the primary proponents of this change, You have an obligation to disclose it. Too bad you didn't before you voted in favor at the committee level. Wausau allowed this identical overnight parking change and ultimately had to rescind it when it was abused and snow plowing became increasingly problematic and dangerous. When Stevens Point is forced to do the same, I'll say, I told you so. In the meantime, the street and police departments will have to field endless complaints. This is a poor use of taxpayer dollars. When yahoos on their way home from the square are vandalizing cars on the street in my neighborhood and wake me from my warm bed at 3 a.m., expect a call. Because if I have to be up, you should too. It's only fair. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rappi. A pleasure as always, and under 5 minutes, so thank you. Alder Nabel.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to speak on this, and I am going to be voting against it. I am in District 3. I won't be the alder for it much longer, but I have spoken with my constituents around here. I've lived in here 40 plus years, and I have seen it, and I know what will happen. Cars will be left, and there will be problems when the parking that we now have that to pay for on the street, those cars won't be moved on time. That'll create a problem. Those cars that park at night because they're maybe not thinking as clearly, a lot of them will be hanging over into people's driveways like we used to have on the days, every day when people were parking on Briggs Street. I am a person that would need this, you would think I would want this because I only have room for 2 cars, one behind each other. But my children never had a car. They had bikes, they had their feet, and they also, for good behavior, got to use our cars. I have company come. I'm glad to pay the $3. It's to go towards our streets for repair. I don't have a problem doing that. I have to do it quite often when my daughter comes from Madison. I paid many a parking ticket when my daughter was dating or after 2 o'clock or 2:30 and she, someone fell asleep watching TV. We have paid from many a time forgetting to, forgot to move the car. Left it there even when our spot was open still in our driveway. We paid it. I don't have a problem with that because I know that that money, it's my own fault. I decided to live here. I knew the size of my driveway and it is what it is. But I do believe we could have done parking permits for those people for one vehicle that they could have had to have a permit to use if there was a hardship and to prove that hardship. But what we're doing now is going backwards to what we want to do about having less cars, less vehicles needed. We talk about walkability and bicycling, and we put money into that. And then here we are going to give free street parking to people that will just use it because it's easier. And I am with Mrs. Rappi on this. If you don't live in this area, you don't get it, but people will take advantage of it and they'll put everything out. So I know I'm not going to, I'm not going to change anything. I hate leaving on this note for my last night of Common Council. It's a disappointment that we didn't come up with a plan that wasn't just for the 50 or 100 people that maybe need this compared to the whole city. So we've gone for the minority of people that really need it, that have a hardship, that we could have made adjustments for and done it for the whole city, which will affect the police department, will affect the streets department. Thank you.
Thank you. Alder Shore.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm pretty sure that I was the first alder to support opening this up. I can promise that I haven't, over the years since, done any campaign or any advocacy to my colleagues on the council. And that this has been a shift in opinion. A couple of other quick things about kind of my situation relative to this and my constituents. I live on a block where we have on-street parking during the day, every day. My block is used for on-street parking. And well before all of this became controversial and really heated up as a debate, I'll say that the constituents that I heard from got in touch because they had gotten tickets, because they needed overnight on-street parking, and it was an inconvenience to not have it available. Then one just last word about whether equity concerns are at play here. I'll also say that something I did quite recently related to during the day and the real needs of students who don't want to pay either the kiosk or for a permit for the lots. I worked with streets as it relates to parking on 4th Avenue because the addition of the bike lanes by the ball fields on Michigan meant a significant loss of free on-street parking, which we've kind of redirected over towards 4th Avenue. So thank you very much. I strongly support this, obviously.
Alder Jennings.
Thank you, Mayor. I will be voting no on this. This ordinance will disproportionately impact districts 1 and 3, as have already been stated. I continue to receive concerns from constituents who oppose this. Community development, who pushed hard for this, has failed or has made little progress in dealing with the underlying issues related to parking. And that is something I've stated before. We need to deal with the underlying problems. Things like a grant program to assist converting rentals back to single family homes, something I've been pushing for years with the previous Director of Community Development. It hasn't gone anywhere with either him or the current director. Satellite parking, looking to the future. How do we move cars out of the city? Collaborating with the university to find ways to reduce students using the city as a car parking lot. There are universities that do not allow freshmen and sophomore students to park or to bring their cars into town. The kiosk system pushed cars out into the neighborhoods, particularly districts 1 and 3, Prentice, Smith. None of that is getting dealt with. And as has been stated, the first approach to this should have been a permit system that works. And that's what most cities do. And that hasn't even been discussed. The city is not homogeneous. Districts 1 and 3 are among the highest tax revenue producing districts in the city. And our Director of Community Development would corroborate that. We supplement, districts 1 and 3 supplement the outlying districts that do not produce that kind of tax revenue. But this is the kind of thing that I agree with Alder Nabel. We're going to get impacted negatively. Our tax-paying residents are going to get impacted negatively, or at least maybe this will work, but to not create a permit system that understands the city is not homogeneous, I think is a failure in this process. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Alder Kneebone.
We already allow parking on the street at night. Really, the only difference that we're looking at is not charging to pay, not charging $3 to park between 2 and 5. If it's so important, then we should be charging for parking during prime time, 8 to 5. And if we want to go that way, then anytime you want to park anywhere in the city, you're going to have to pay. I think at this point, having all the cars on one side of the street on any given night will make it much easier for the street sweeper to drive down the other side of the street and probably to plan that maintenance. On a snow emergency, you can't park on the street anyway. So that really shouldn't be an issue because once that's declared, nobody can park regardless. I'm certainly willing to look at this again. We may very well need to expand that area from the downtown to cover some of the campus area. I'm willing to say, let's look at that. Let's come back in a while and see if we need to go back to a permit system. But right now, the only time you have to pay to park is at 2 o'clock in the morning. And that just doesn't seem logical. Again, people can already park on the street overnight. They just have to pay for it. And people that are already paying property taxes shouldn't have to pay to park in front of their house. And people that are married couples often have 2 cars and they may live in a 2-bedroom apartment, but they still have 2 cars. So overstuffing apartments this doesn't cause more cars to be on the street. It's people's lifestyles that overuse cars probably. Anyway, it seems to me that we're trying to do something here to help more city residents. I think it's worth a shot. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? I'm going to call on the city attorney. City attorney, we had talked about at committees an increase of the fine by $25. I don't see that in this ordinance amendment. Is that an oversight or is that something that will be considered separately next month?
That would be done separately on the schedule of fees.
Thank you.
It could be certainly done next month. It is something that myself and the police chief discussed though.
Perfect. Thank you. Motion before you is to approve the overnight parking ordinance changes as presented. If you are in favor, you'll vote yes. If you are opposed, you'll vote no. And Clerk Yenter, please call the roll.
Jennings,
No.
Shore,
You're on mute.
Aye.
Nabel,
No.
Zarazua,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Slowinski,
Aye.
Kneebone,
Aye.
Leak,
No.
Dalton,
Aye.
Fischler,
No.
Morrow.
No.
I have a 6-5. Is that correct?
Correct.
6-5. The motion is adopted. Item number 22 is on page 154 of your packet. That is Chapter 9, Section 9.19, as it relates to ATV, UTV routes. Alder Slowinski.
Yeah, I would like to move approval of the ordinance amendment section 9.05 as it relates to, I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong one, or the creation of ordinance, chapter 9, section 9.19 as it relates to ATV and UTV routes.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I second it, Alder Morrow.
Seconded by Morrow. Discussion.
Alder Fischler?
Alder Nabel. Then we'll go to Alder Fischler.
Thank you. As I read through what was stated and the extra information that was given, I'm still not sure if this is where it's going to be that it has to be a licensed driver. Is that what it is being implied in the word verbiage that was given? Because other municipals or other towns, because they weren't cities or municipalities, they were towns, they did put in there that the person had to have a valid driver's license. A valid driver's license meaning also that they could not have had one that was rescinded for drunk driving or other things. Reading this was not as clear as what those were given as examples, and I appreciated those examples because they were pretty straightforward about saying an age, especially the one that was done by the town of Carson. Said the ordinance shall be enforced, and it also said that requirement, I think that, no, I'm sorry, town of Alman, excuse me, that all ATV operators shall observe minimum speeds of 35, and all ATV operators shall have a current valid driver's license. It just spelled everything out instead of just giving statutes. And I think that is something good to have so that the everyday person also understands this when they look it up. So is it for licensed drivers only?
Thank you. And I believe the next item on the agenda will cover that, but I'm going to turn it over to the city attorney right now for clarification.
Okay.
So I did quite a bit of looking into that. The statutes are a little complicated to understand. However, the general requirement under statute for somebody to have a driver's license does not apply to ATVs and UTVs. And the reason is that under the definition section for all of the traffic stuff, the definition for motor vehicle, and I'll quote here, it says, a snowmobile, an all-terrain vehicle, a utility terrain vehicle, an electric scooter, and an EPAMD, which we don't need to worry about here, obviously, shall be considered motor vehicles only for purposes made specifically applicable by statute. So essentially what that means is that any reference in the statutes to motor vehicles needs to specifically state that it applies to ATVs and UTVs, otherwise it does not. And the requirement in Chapter 343 that you have a driver's license to operate a motor vehicle on a roadway does not say specifically that that also applies to ATVs and UTVs. Therefore, you do not have to have a driver's license. However, any person born after January 1st, 1988 has to possess a valid safety certificate for operation of a ATV or UTV on a road or to operate one in general. So literally, I mean, 1988, I mean, there are people out there in their 30s who don't have a valid safety certificate, but would be required under law to possess one. And there's a program to get a safety certificate that's operated by the DNR. Moreover, they are required to be registered and to display that registration, or you can carry the registration on you. Persons under 18 are required to wear helmets. There are light and equipment requirements. There are rules prohibiting passengers unless the device was specifically designed for them. And there is a rule that prohibits persons under the age of 16 from operating them on a roadway, unless some very, very narrow exceptions apply, which we wouldn't really need to be concerned about. And as the mayor did briefly mention, the next item on the agenda is to adopt those Chapter 23 regulations as part of our ordinances, which would then allow us to write citations for this in the municipal court. To whatever extent other communities have incorporated a requirement that you be a licensed driver, my opinion is that those ordinances that they created are just not enforceable under state law, because the ordinance, the provision that allows us to create an ordinance adopting these regulations, it says that the ordinance must be in strict conformity with what is listed in the statute. So there certainly might be ones out there that require that, but I think if really hard pressed to fight that in court, they'd probably lose.
Well, then on top of that, there is not anything that says that on the agenda that has specifically says that we are going to be voting then on that statute. So I saw it in here, but it's not listed as an item.
Are you referring to item number 23, Alder Abel?
It just says that one about the ATV ordinance amendment. It doesn't say there's a separate item compared other than this ordinance amendment. Goes next to the,
I'm not sure I understand. Item number 22 is what we're on now, talking about the ATV, UTV routes. Item number 23, the next agenda is adopting the state statutes, which is outlined on page 164.
I apologize, I got that wrong. Then I'd just like to say that I did read all that stuff about, because I looked at it beforehand, about the little lesson that they take on safety and everything. And I'm sorry, but I do not think that it's appropriate for us to say yes at all then, if that's the way you want to put it. If it's all or nothing, then I do not agree on this, because it should be a licensed driver. And when we talked with Chief Zenner, that was what he had hoped that we would have also. I did not see anything that said that it was anything else. And saying that a 33-year-old could be driving without having had that sticker should make a difference is a bunch of garbage. It's about the fact that you'd have 12 or 14-year-olds driving on this, and it's for convenience to go to a store to get gasoline. That might also be selling alcohol. I don't like this. And then next thing it can be is snowmobiles, which ruin roadways. So then we're gonna have that as being the next thing. I'm not against people having ATVs, but they need to have a license to be on that road, and a valid license for the safety of, for the safety of the public.
Alderperson, I know the city attorney's got his hand up again, but it would certainly be in order if you wanted to make an amendment requiring a valid driver's license. That would be in order.
Okay, that's what I would say. The only way I would ever approve this would be that it has a valid driver's license.
So is that a motion to amend?
Yes, that is a motion to amend.
Thank you. Do we have a second to that motion?
Leak, I'll second it.
Leak seconds. We will now only focus our discussion. I'm sorry, who was that?
Mayor, this is Alder Slowinski.
Yes, sir.
If I just heard the city attorney correctly, though, he said that we have to follow that state statute where we have to conform to that. I guess have the attorney elaborate more, but I thought that's what he just said, is we can't do that, because he just basically said that these other townships that are putting this requirement of having a valid driver's license, that he didn't think that it would even be, you can't fight it. You can't cite it.
I believe his
I guess
words
I'd like to hear
were unenforceable. So Attorney Beveridge, I'm going to turn the floor back over to you to discuss anything relevant to the motion at hand and whether or not it's harmful in any way to include that in the ordinance.
Just very briefly with regards to Alder Nable's comments about 12-year-olds or 14-year-olds, the law does require them to be, any operator to be over the age of 16 to operate on a roadway. But yes, Alder Slowinski is absolutely correct. Based on my reading of the law, we cannot require people to have a valid driver's license to operate an ATV or UTV on a roadway.
Thank you. Again, discussion will be limited only to the amendment at hand right now. And that is, the motion was to require a valid driver's license for operations of an ATV, UTV on the city streets that are being proposed. We have Alder Morrow next.
I take my hand down.
Wait, I'm sorry, Sean. I had Alder Fischler first. I completely forgot about that because she took her, the hand wasn't up. Fischler.
I was only going to comment on routes. So
Gotcha. Okay.
Is that
We'll
not covered at this moment in time?
We'll come back to you.
Okay.
Now Alder Morrow.
I was going to make a comment about that as well, so I'm going to wait.
Okay, we'll come back to you as well. Alder Jennings.
Well, I guess I have a clarifying question to the city attorney. So may I ask it related to the license?
You may direct it to me and then I will ask the city attorney to respond.
So I understand that, I think I understand what the city attorney said, that we can't actually enforce people having a license. So that means somebody could, or the question is, could somebody lose their license for an OWI or DWI drunk driving and be able to drive an ATV or UTV on the streets? Is that correct?
City Attorney?
Yes, based on what I researched, a person could in fact be on a suspended or revoked license status and still be allowed to operate an ATV or UTV in a roadway. Now, granted, that has to be on a roadway that is designated for use of those types of vehicles. So that's essentially where the real authority lies, is in having the power to set out exactly which parts of which streets those will be allowed on. But you're absolutely right. And that was the most troubling thing for me, was seeing that somebody could be revoked due to an OWI conviction and still operate one of these on a roadway. Now, just to note, you cannot operate one of these under the influence of alcohol. There are separate statutory provisions almost identical to the OWI laws that pertain specifically to ATVs and UTVs.
Thank you, Attorney Beveridge. Any other comments? Okay, the motion before you is to amend the ordinance proposal requiring a valid driver's license for operation of an ATV, UTV on city streets that are allowed. All those in favor, I'm sorry, Alder Nabel, do you have another comment?
Yes, thank you. Is there a way that I can pull that then? Because it's all an all or nothing then, is what it looks like to me.
Unfortunately, Robert's rules does not allow you to rescind a motion. We have to act on it. We can certainly vote no if you're not in favor of the motion. That is in order, but pulling the motion or retracting the motion is not appropriate.
Thank you.
If you are in favor of the motion to amend, you will vote yes. And if you are opposed, you'll vote no. I think we can do a voice vote on this. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. All those opposed say nay.
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 I think that was pretty clear. The motion fails. Now before you is the ATV, UTV routes, and Alder Fischler and then Alder Morrow will have the floor.
Okay, so in terms of the routes, just going back to a lot of concerns, I think just the routes that are listed here are important, because it's not like we're going to have ATVs or UTVs going down Michigan Avenue. And, you know, we want to support other modes of transportation as a council. I don't think we want to just limit it to bikes, pedestrians, and cars. You know, I'm open to just maybe seeing how things go, just test it out. We did that very thing with alcohol downtown, and starting small and expanding on that. So I think if we start small with this, we can see how it goes and, you know, see where it leads. Thank you.
Thank you. And Alder Morrow?
Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you very much. I mean, driving an ATV in Albin, Buena Vista, Carson, Dewey, Sharon, Stockton, and Shantytown is a lot different than driving an ATV down Stevens Point. I mean, the routes that you have there, I mean, it's a totally different cities. And I think that we would open ourselves up for a lot of problems, because, I mean, right now in those towns as well, they have snowmobile paths that they go through that they're not going through town there. But again, their downtowns are like a block. So driving in downtown Albany isn't much, but going through Stevens Point is a totally different thing. That's why I think we would be open ourselves up for a lot of issues with this.
Okay, thank you. Next up, President Johnson.
And thank you. I'll lower my hand so it's not as confusing. Thank you. I'm wondering if there's an amendment possibility here to, I'd like to make a motion to include that the driver of the vehicle have insurance. We did this for the county board when this came to county board for the use of ATVs on county roads. It was something that we did amend into the ordinance, and it was passed. So it seems that there should be evidence of insurance of not only the vehicle, but the liability insurance as well. And I'd like to make a motion to that effect.
Okay, we have a motion to amend. Is there a second to that amendment?
This is Alder Slawinski, and I do agree with President Johnson, so I will second that.
Okay, we have a second by Alder Slawinski. Now, discussion will only relate to the motion at hand, which is to amend the ordinance proposal to require insurance for operation of an ATV, UTV within the city limits. Alder Nabel.
Thank you. So to have the insurance, does that really kind of cover the fact that they'd have to be of a certain age to have that insurance, or is that they could have it under their family?
Okay, thank you. Attorney Beveridge, I see your hand is up.
I just want to note that I have not looked into our ability to do this at all. And also at the risk of talking a bit out of school, when I spoke to Corp Counsel, he did inform me that the initial county ordinance was passed without consultation with the Corp Counsel office. So as to whether or not Corp Counsel reviewed the insurance requirement for compatibility with state statutes, I would have a bit of doubt.
Okay, thank you. Any comments, other comments relating to the motion at hand?
Yeah, Leak here. I guess I'm just afraid that the motion seems, I mean, I don't know the first thing about ATV insurance. And I have not, you know, this motion just came up, so I haven't read about it. It seems like an excellent idea because I can't think, I mean, just personally, many years ago when I was a younger driver, I had a close call with an unlicensed ATV driver when I was driving. And so insurance sounds like a great idea, but I'm not sure can we craft a motion that's legally sound right now without doing a little bit of research on this, on the insurance aspect of it. Because again, I don't know the first thing about ATV insurance.
Thank you. Any other comments? Alder Zarazua.
I guess I would wonder like what law enforcement's thoughts are on this. I don't know if they've dealt with, I mean, I know it's not allowed on the city streets, so the city police would not have any kind of history with that, but if they have any input, that would be helpful.
Thank you. Chief Zenner, do you have any light on the subject of insurance?
I have no information on whether, I mean, you can pretty much insure everything a boat, so I can assume you can insure an ATV. If that is what the question pertains to, or is it the whole?
Well, I'm gonna call on you again when we get back to the original ordinance, but right now we are only discussing the amendment. Any other comments relating to the amendment? Alder Jennings.
Well, with that, I just have to ask, is this insurance insuring the ATV, or is it comprehensive insurance if somebody is injured? And I don't mean to just keep throwing things out there, but clearly there's a lot of things that haven't been thought through. Sorry.
Thank you. And as always, alderpersons have the ability to contact staff with questions, comments, suggestions to give us, your staff, time to vet those things prior to an open meeting. Alder Nebo, your hand is up. Is that relating to the motion at hand or the overall ordinance? Okay, we'll keep it on the overall ordinance.
Overall ordinance, yes.
Gotcha. Alder Zarazua again.
So I just have a question, I guess, for the city attorney. If we would pass this amendment to this and find out later that we cannot require insurance, it's not a difficult process to remove that, right? I mean, we would just be striking out a part in the ordinance.
No, and I will ask the city attorney to answer that.
Okay, thank you.
No, it's not a complicated process. However, while we've been sitting here, I have looked at Chapter 344, and I can give you a pretty confident answer. 344 is the statute on financial responsibility for operation of motor vehicles. 344 sub 62 is the requirement to have regular old auto insurance or just insurance on any motor vehicle operated on a highway. However, in the definition section for Chapter 344, motor vehicle is defined as a self-propelled vehicle and also includes trailers and semi-trailers designed for use with such vehicles, except that motor vehicle does not include farm tractors, well drillers, road machinery, or snowmobiles. However, the language I quoted earlier about the general definition of motor vehicle, in fact, this section here also says words and phrases defined in section 340.01 are used in the same sense unless a different definition is specifically provided. You know, I'd say this is a closer call than the question about licensing. It's a little closer. My guess would be that probably the answer lies in the case law, which I don't have the time to look at right now. But yeah, we could certainly make the change and then rescind it. However, it's somewhat irresponsible, in my opinion, to do something that we're not sure we can do, because it gets published in the paper and we put the public on notice that, you know, those are the rules. And then having to unring the bell a month later is just a little bit imprecise, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments relating to the amendment? Okay, hearing and seeing no other comments relating to the amendment, I would ask the alders to unmute yourselves. If you're in favor, vote yes. And if you're opposed, well, let's do it voice vote. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying yes or aye.
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 All those opposed?
No.
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 Yeah, too hard to tell. I'm going to ask for a roll call vote, please. I think the nays had it, but I'm going to ask the noes or the roll call, please.
Morrow,
No.
Fischler,
No.
Dalton,
No.
Leek,
Aye.
Kneebone,
No.
Slowinski,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Zarazua,
No.
Nabel,
No.
Shore,
No.
Jennings,
No.
I got 7-4, is that correct? Or 7 in opposition, rather. 4-7.
8 noes, 3 yeses.
Okay, I miscounted. I apologize. With the majority and the nays, the motion to amend fails. We're back to the original ordinance, and City Attorney Beveridge, you got your hand back up?
Yes, very quickly. Literally, while the vote was going on, I found the on-point statute, and we are not able to require insurance. It says motor vehicle does not include trailers, semi-trailers, all-terrain vehicles, utility terrain vehicles, etc. And that's in the subsection specifically about mandatory liability insurance. So good job, everyone. You got it right.
Thank you. Alder Kneebone.
We can't require somebody to have a driver's license. We can't require somebody to have insurance to operate one of these things on the roadway. I appreciate the data that was included that shows, what was it, 164 deaths, ATV, UTV deaths. It doesn't say how they occur. The Government Consumer Product Safety Commission has indicated that 64% of fatalities that with ATVs and UTVs happen on a roadway. And of those 64%, 74% happen on a paved surface. ATV.org, which is the Consumer Federation of America, also indicates that it's very dangerous to put these things on the roadway. ATV.org, it appears to be a organization where you can get training, all information. They recommend size appropriate ATVs. So you could have a 12-year-old on an ATV that's probably smaller than my pull-on lawnmower which also has 4 wheels and a steering wheel and a headlight. But it doesn't mean I'm gonna put the trailer on and drive it over to Aldi to get my groceries or a can of gas to fill it up later. ATVs and UTVs are not designed to drive on roadways. I don't think that I could safely support this. The first child that dies will be on our heads. I do support being able to cross a roadway from one trail to another, but not drive down Brolesky Road to stop at Fleet Farm and get a 6-pack and top off your ATV in the process. I think they're just not safe enough. I wonder even, Mayor, perhaps you could ask Chief Center to respond. Do the police even have the ability to stop these folks, or will they just run rampant? And what's going to stop them from veering off the route? Oh, I'll just go around the corner. It's no big deal. I think we're opening up a huge can of worms here to allow these on the roadways. The city of Stevens Point is a lot different from the town of Buena Vista, the town of Almond, the town of Carson. The roads are much less traveled. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief Center, I'm going to turn the floor over to you right now before we go to the other alders to give the police department's perspective and answer Alderperson Kneebone's question, please.
As for enforcing, that would actually be, from my conversation with Attorney Beveridge, would be under 23. The ordinance amendment would adopt those particular statutes involved in ATV operation would be adopted and put into our municipal ordinances. So yes, we would be able to enforce that if we adopt what's being proposed at 23.
And Chief, I know you and I talked about this too, requiring the valid license and not seeing it as a workaround for people who may have had a suspended license for one reason or another. You want to share your thoughts on that again, please?
Well, I spoke about this at committees. I find it frustrating and very difficult that we would not be able to adopt that in our ordinance, that we have a 16, or actually what I should say, a valid licensed driver to be able to operate an ATV within the city. I would strongly support that, but obviously based on legal guidance, we can't include it. So I will leave my thoughts at that.
Thank you. President Johnson, I had you on my list. Was that for something other than the amendment? Do you have a comment directly related to the ordinance?
Nope, I'm done.
Gotcha. Zarazua?
Yes, please. So I guess this is complicated, I feel. I mean, I do have safety concerns about ATVs and UTVs, but I also am aware of my own biases that I don't feel they're safe. And I know that people that ride them have had a safety course and they feel comfortable with them and can operate them just as they would a car. I am in favor of using our streets to the greatest potential that we can. So like how we just passed parking, like I think that's important. Like we have the streets there. I think having bike lanes is important. And I see how this also is a different way of transportation. So I guess I'm still kind of conflicted on this, but I just need to clarify because the age has been brought up. If I'm not mistaken, the attorney said that under 16 is not allowed on roadways. So if that's the case, then I know it would be preferred that we have licensed drivers, but at least they're at the age of being able to be licensed drivers. So we're not talking about a 12-year-old driving, 16-year-olds are still kids, but at least they are of legal age to get a license.
Thank
That's
you.
it for my comments. Thank you.
Alder Leek?
Oh, didn't know I had my hand up, but sure,
I
I'll
had
say
you
something.
listed, so at one point you had your hand up.
Oh, okay, sure. I don't think it's complicated at all. We potentially have uninsured ATV drivers on our roads, and that's just absolutely not a non-starter. I don't. Yeah, I don't. There's no way I'd support this with that under those conditions.
Okay, thank you. And
Me again.
Alder Nebel for the fourth time.
Well, it's not a separate part now, so I'd like to respond on this section of it, which is that I wouldn't support this because although it wouldn't be on a roadway for a license, it can be on the shoulder. They don't recommend the shoulder or the, what do you call it, the dip or whatever that's in there. But age 12 and 14-year-olds are allowed if they have a guardian that's riding on a vehicle nearby in shouting distance. That is what I read through the DNR and I read through other articles. So I don't think this is something that is that hard to do. I think we would be opening ourselves up to a big mess. And just because we want to give transportation to everybody in different ways doesn't mean that our roads are made for that. These are not, and the DNR says so, that these tires and the size of these are not made for being on the road. It's in the DNR pamphlet. I sent it out to a few people, but if people read it, it says it right in there. Thank you.
Alder, just a clarification, when you said you sent something out to a few people, can you clarify that, please?
Yes, I sent out, when we had this and we were asking for information, I sent it out. I'm trying to think to who, what. I think to our president.
Okay, and that's the only person you sent it to?
Yes.
Thank you. Alder Morrow.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I know it might be a shock to some of the alders here, but there are several people now who are actually driving cars who do not have a license. There are several folks who are driving in our city right at this very moment who have OWIs who do not have a license. So I don't think this amendment really means too much. If someone's going to drive, they're going to drive anyway. But there are a lot of folks that do not have a license that actually do operate a car. Not legally, but they actually do. Thank you.
Thank you. That's job security for Chief Zenner and his staff. Alder Shore.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'll be another voice that says that this is a close call. You know, for all the issues and all the times that I've sort of stood up for some of the urban characters of our community, I am also aware that you know, sort of at the edges, we do connect with less populated areas, and that did kind of make me open to this. I think what's pushing me into the no column is these statutory restrictions on us from the state level. You know, the more I think about it, the more I feel like these carve-outs in state statute have are not, you know, are not are sort of special carve-outs that make this harder to support rather than easier, and that's kind of what tips me over. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments?
This is Alder Slowinski.
Yes, sir.
Again, you know, I brought this forward simply because I was contacted by constituents that lived on the you know, the outer areas of the city, and they basically, you know, with the bordering townships, you know, opening up their roads not necessarily as, I guess, trails, but just routes so that you could get to, you know, I own a UTV. The last place I want to be is on a road. I want to be out in the dirt. I want to be out, you know, in the nature. That's the last place I want to be, is on a road competing with, you know, vehicle traffic. So again, the reason why I brought this up is because I want to just be able to open up some of our streets, just to give the ability to the city residents that live on the outskirts of town, of the city, you know, that opportunity to get out into the country, I guess, if you will, the rural area. So again, you know, and the comment was made, you know, that, oh, we cannot have these on the roads, these are dangerous. You know, I'm kind of offended by that, because it's kind of painted that every ATV, UTV driver is, you know, reckless, and that they're, you know, driving as fast as they can and they're not obeying the laws. That's completely opposite. I mean, I'm in a UTV group, and I mean, it's respectable members of the communities. I mean, it's just, UTV and ATVing is just a very popular activity, and it's picking up momentum. It's, you know, it's more and more. So again, I guess I plead with my fellow alders to, like Alder Fischler had stated, you know, let's give this a shot. I mean, if it turns into a mess, I mean, the last thing I want is our roads to be unsafe. But again, you know, it's all about transportation equality. You know, we want to open our roads up to, you know, every user, and this is just another user that you know, wants to utilize our roads to get to their you know, the path, the off the beaten trail, I guess I'll say. So again, I just encourage my fellow alders to give this a shot, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
This will be my last one, I promise.
Alder Nabel, I apologize. Robert's rules say speaking twice on any topic. Alder Kneebone, second time.
If I can get myself unmuted here. When I talk about safety, I'm not referring to the driver. I'm looking at the data that I've researched online. ATVs have low wheelbases. They have lower inflated tires. They're more prone to rollovers on wet pavement. They're very difficult to control because of the physical dimensions of the vehicle. I'm not saying anything about drivers. And I think ATVs on the trails where they're designed for is a good thing. Well, we won't go there, but I'm not opposed to ATVs being used for the purpose they're designed for, to be used off-road. So it's not the drivers that I'm blanketing saying are irresponsible. I'm saying the designs of the equipment itself make it inherently unsafe to drive on a paved surface. And that's from the Consumer Protection, Consumer Federation, atvsafety.org. You can find it all online, reputable sources. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Alder Fischler again.
I was just curious if there's a way we could enact like a speed limit on the roadway. Would that be a possibility? Would that make more sense to keep it below a certain speed limit on an ATV?
So are you talking about a separate speed limit for ATV, UTVs?
That's not something we could enforce just by an ordinance?
I believe we could, but I would defer to the city attorney in that regard as well. And city attorney, as long as you're speaking on that, I'm curious if you've looked at the Department of Natural Resources regulations in regards to operation and enforcement insurance requirements, because I know boats and other non-traditional vehicles are governed mostly by the Department of Natural Resources.
No, I can do I'm doing a quick keyword search for the word insurance in there right now. And there are certain insurance requirements for commercial operators, you know, people who are leasing these things out or providing them to patrons for use, commercial owners, that type of thing. but it does not appear that there's any requirement in there for individual sort of recreational owners to carry insurance. I did look at the regulations as opposed to the statutes, and those mostly pertain to the use of ATVs in areas that are under DNR ownership.
And Attorney Beveridge, Alder Fischler's question was, would we be able to enact and enforce a different speed limit for ATV, UTV use on the roads?
There are some speed limits indicated in the statute, but they're for kind of specialized situations, like if you are operating one with a snowplow attached to it and doing so on a sidewalk, or if you are within 150 feet of a dwelling on a trail or something along those lines. The generalized speeds on roadway aspect of the statute is that we are only authorized to create these routes on roads that have speed limits of 35 miles per hour or less. And as you can attest to, we did need to change the map from the original version in order to avoid some areas that had higher speed limits than that.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing and hearing none, the motion before you is to approve the ordinance creation of Chapter 9, Section 9.19 as it relates to ATV, UTV routes. If you are in favor, you will vote yes. If you are opposed, you will vote no, and we'll have Clerk Yenter call the roll.
Jennings,
No.
Shore,
No.
Nabel,
No.
Zarazua,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Slowinski,
Aye.
Kneebone,
No.
Leak,
No.
Dalton,
Aye.
Fischler,
Aye.
Morrow,
No.
I have a 5-6, is that correct?
correct.
5-6, the motion fails. Item number 23 is on page 164 of your packet. And I'll ask the city attorney to talk to its relevance after I state it. It's an ordinance amendment for the provisions of state traffic and conservation law adopted by reference in 9.01 regarding adopting state statute for ATV, UTV regulations. Attorney, is this something we even need to consider at this point?
I actually still think it would be wise to adopt this. There are a lot of provisions in Chapter 23 that in the event somebody did operate an ATV, even just, if somebody were to just, say to heck with the law and operate one illegally in the city, it would be useful for us to have these on the books, so to speak, and particularly so that we could issue citations in the municipal court rather than have to, for this small subset of citations, have to run them through the circuit court. So I'd recommend adopting this independent of the result on the previous item.
Thank you. Then I would entertain a motion.
This is Alder Slowinski, so moved.
Okay, do we have a second?
Alder Morrow.
Seconded by Morrow. Discussion there. Hearing and seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Morrow,
Aye.
Fischler,
Aye.
Dalton,
Aye.
Leak,
Aye.
Kneebone,
Aye.
Slowinski,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Zarazua,
Aye.
Nabel,
Aye.
Shore,
Aye.
Jennings,
Aye.
Unanimous consent, that is adopted. Item number 24 is on page 165 of your packet, and much to the dismay of Curly, Shemp, and Larry, this is a no mow May resolution. I would entertain a motion. Alder Zarazua. Seconded by Fischler. Discussion. Alder Zarazua.
Thank you. So I'm just glad that this resolution has come to be. No pun intended. So I had contacts with a professor from Lawrence University in Appleton who actually did the study last year and was able to determine that having no mow May last year did increase the bee species in the city. So I'm very thankful to have this as an option for our citizens. I don't think it's something that I will participate in because I don't want to have to mow 2 months of grass on the last day of May. But I am thankful to any and all of my neighbors who would want to participate. And I really want to thank city staff for all the research that they did in reaching out to Appleton and finding out all the possible issues that could come up and thinking of some remedies for those. So thank you.
Thank you. Alder Fischler.
Yeah, I also want to thank staff as well, because I understand that there are a lot of people who, neighbors who like to keep clean lawns that probably aren't in support of this, but it's nice that we do have stipulations in place. So if someone doesn't mow on June 1st, that they will be getting a ticket or having to have some abatement taking place. So there are some things put in place to protect homeowners too that aren't maybe are weed evasive, I guess. So thank you.
Thank you. Alder Jennings.
Yeah, first I want to thank Alder Zarzua for bringing this forward, but will Parks Department be participating in this?
That is not up for discussion right now. We are talking about the resolution regarding no mow May. If you have a question for the Parks Director, you can certainly give him a call tomorrow. Any other comments on the resolution? Alder Kneebone.
I think particularly in light of the fact that we just approved another beekeeper or license for the city, this is a good idea. It's something that I will participate in. Pretty much everything we eat depends upon our pollinators, and anything that we can do now to help our pollinators can only be beneficial for all of us in the long run. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Hearing none, if you're in favor, vote yes. If you're opposed, you'll vote no, and the clerk will call a roll.
Jennings,
Aye.
Shore,
Aye.
Nabel,
Aye.
Zarazua,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Slawinski,
Aye.
Kneebone,
Aye.
Leek,
Aye.
Dalton,
Aye.
Fischler,
Aye.
Morrow.
No.
By almost unanimous consent, we have adopted the resolution. Information will be available at stevenspoint.com/no mow May. Hopefully tomorrow, if not, definitely by Wednesday for you or anyone interested in participating to sign up. Item number 25 is on page 166 of your packet, and that's an ordinance amendment regarding Chapter 30's Building Code rewrite. I'm looking for a motion. President Johnson.
Motion to approve. I do have an amendment after it's on the floor.
Thank you. Is there a second? Seconded by Kneebone. We do have two people who signed up to speak, so I will go to those first, President Johnson. First one is Stephen Klein. Mr. Klein, you still with us?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Excellent. I just wanted to make some comments on this. These provisions give a lot of power to our inspectors, infringing on Fourth Amendment rights, borderline. It says here that permits are required just to improve or repair. That means every improvement, every repair you make on your house. If I change a damaged screen on my house, I might need to get a permit. It also gives the inspector the ability to require permits for things that aren't listed as requiring a permit. So he can arbitrarily decide to require a permit for anything he wants at any time, or she. This is open-ended power that I have strong objections to. There needs to be a certain level of protection of privacy in your home. I understand when you apply for a permit, you're giving the inspector permission to enter consent. Consent doesn't typically involve requirements. If you're required to give consent to allow somebody into your home to look at something, that's not consensual. If that's your definition of consent, we might have to discuss that a little bit. I would also like to address something that came to my attention fairly recently, and when I started as a contractor, windows and driveways, doorways, those did not require permits. And it came to my attention that they now do. At some point, people need to have the right to take care of their homes or their rentals. We have a huge issue here with dilapidated homes and rentals, and we're making it harder to maintain those with this. No one is going to want to replace doors or windows on their rental property if they have to look at getting a permit and potentially raise taxes and everything else in that place under further scrutiny. People who own homes and rentals are going to want to be able to maintain their place without the watchful eye of Big Brother. I'm going to go back to something that's always irked me: roofing and siding requiring a permit. These are basic maintenance issues. Siding and roofing does not last forever. There's zero justification for requiring permits to do basic maintenance on your home. The key word there is permit, permission. If you have to pay to get permission to maintain your home, at which point you have someone in your house eyeing up everything, it's just you're disincentivizing people from taking care of their own homes. Something else here. Give me 1 second here. I also wanted to talk a little bit about some of the other issues regarding these ordinances, the permitting process. I had a good friend wanted to be a contractor a couple of years back. We have a shortage of contractors, and no one can deny the shortage of contractors. I'm trying to put together a package to do an addition. Was hoping to do it this year. I can't get bids back. It took me 6 months to get the plan. I've been waiting 3 months and still haven't gotten my first bid back. These contractors are overwhelmed. I know of 2 contractors out of Junction City refuse to work within the city limits. I know of one contractor lives in the city limits, drives 2 hours up north to avoid Stevens Point. I had a good friend decided to be a contractor, quit a pretty good job, invested about $10,000 in tools, equipment, work trailer. After one encounter with Jimena, back when she was still doing residential, he packed up his job, he packed up everything and got a new job. We're chasing away people. We're disincentivizing repairs and maintenance on homes and rental, and infringing on basic privacy rights of homeowners. These are people's homes. You can't require that people allow you in if you're not making a change that affects other people. If someone,
Mr. Klein, Mr. Klein,
yes,
are we to summarize that you are against the rewrite?
Yeah, I had issues with the original, but yes, I'm against the rewrite as well.
Thank you, sir. Next up, we have Orrin Jacobson.
Is my 5 minutes over?
It has been over, yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Orrin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council people. I want to first state that I understand that one of the purposes of this rewrite is to bring the code up to date with state statutes. Our existing code makes references to state codes that have long since been renumbered. I do think it's appropriate for substantial changes to Chapter 30 to take place. However, I have some concerns about this code. I personally am a general contractor here in the city of Stevens Point. I am also a lawyer. I have now a growing experience, particularly working in this municipality with both residential and commercial properties, mostly that were originally constructed between 1890 and in the early 1920s. I have a particular appreciation for the architecture of that era within this community, and will likely continue to work on buildings from that area here in the city, doing renovations and rehabilitation and otherwise repair. I do also have experience with new construction, both in commercial and residential in other parts of the state. My concerns with this rewrite are primarily that there is one area of the building code within our municipality that is largely outside of the purview of state building codes. And that is specifically the repair of existing residential structures. The state uniform dwelling code, which is the uniform standard for residential construction in the state of Wisconsin, specifically exempts repairs of residential 1 and 2 family dwellings within the state of Wisconsin from the uniform dwelling code. And that is justified by the fact that the Uniform Dwelling Code assumes that you are doing new construction or an alteration or addition where you're really doing something new. And so you have the ability, as you break into the entire package, to come up to a new standard. My concern is that this rewrite, instead of really taking the opportunity, which I have had the opportunity to discuss with our building superintendent, DJ Snyder, as well as the city attorney, instead of taking the opportunity to look at this narrow area where the municipality, Stevens Point, is really the only governing body that determines what we do with repairs of these old residential buildings, particularly 1 and 2 family, this constricts the ability of people to repair. I think the application of the state's Uniform Dwelling Code to the repairs of 100-year-old houses within the city is wholly inappropriate. I think we have the ability to cater a repair code in this community to allow people to effectuate repairs, to have appropriate permits, but to maintain and repair our older homes and that they were constructed and have lasted 100 years. In the process of starting to invest in real estate in this community, I have gone through a lot of houses. And I will say we do have many houses that were not necessarily very well constructed and could do very well with improvements to their different structural components of the building. However, many of them, despite that, have stood the test of time. The houses that I'm really concerned about are the ones that were built very well 100 years ago. And but for the neglect that I think has been all too common in certain areas within this community of certain housing stock, the construction methods used at that time would stand for another 100 years. And a particular change in this rewrite, changing the definition of repair under the definitions section to specifically exclude the repair of all structural components within a building from the definition of repair. Therefore, if I touch the structural component of an old building to repair it, in the, the common sense of the word repair, under this new definition, that would be an alteration. And under the interpretation of our existing building inspections department, that would then require me to deconstruct, demolish the entire structural component that I'm trying to repair and build it anew under the new standard. And that's what my concern is. I don't want to do that. I want to repair and rehabilitate the buildings that I'm working on. And I think this change in definition would basically push me completely out of that game and into a scenario where attempting to repair old homes may become impossible. I don't dispute the prior comments. There are contractors that at this point in time refuse to work in this city. I think some of them are unjustified. And I think others just don't want to deal with a very code hawkish inspections department. I think we have an opportunity here to, instead of just going forward with a rewrite because it was done, and I do appreciate the work that's put in, to spend some more time and actually engage with our community. I'm wrapping up, Mr. Mayor, thank you. And engage with the community to discuss how we might rewrite this code so that people want to do work here as we need them to, and so that we don't inadvertently, essentially push people out from doing the good work of rehabilitating our housing stock. I would request that this be, that more time be given for public input and more engagement on this topic. This is an enormous code revision, and I'm opposed to it today, though I do appreciate the work, and I hope code revisions of Chapter 30 come in the future with more public input and engagement from the alders. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I see the city attorney has his hand raised. Attorney Beveridge?
Sorry, I had to turn off a dehumidifier. So I grew up in a house that was built in 1930. I live in a house that was built in 1911. My parents were both very, very fond of architecture. Our house was filled with books about architecture, particularly arts and crafts and craftsman style, bungalow styles from the early 1900s, the exact ones that Mr. Jacobson was just referring to. Stevens Point is blessed to have a lot of our original development having occurred in that era, and we have a lot of those structures, and it's a huge point of pride for our community to have those. I went through this ordinance with a fine-tooth comb in conjunction with the building inspector, and if I had any thought that this was going to result in the wholesale destruction of those structures in the city, I would not be in support of the language. But I think ultimately what's going on here is, to a certain extent, and I don't mean to be or sound argumentative, but I think that the main point Mr. Jacobson is making is largely a straw man argument, i.e. he's saying that if we pass this, then the building inspector will make this ridiculous interpretation of it that will lead to terrible results. And I think I can speak on behalf of DJ when I say there will not be the ridiculous interpretation of this. If you are working on a truss, there's the chance that that will be considered something that requires you to bring that truss up to code. But that does not mean that, the shin bone's connected to the leg bone, connected to the hip bone, and therefore you have to replace the entire system of the wall all the way down to the ground. Our building inspectors would never make that interpretation. It would be ridiculous to do so. And just because someone believes that the language is susceptible to being interpreted that way, I don't think means that it ever would be interpreted that way. But moreover, I don't think that there's all that big of a difference between the definitions in that regard in the new one and in the old one. And moreover, just while we were sitting here, I pulled up the code for the city of Wausau, and it has very similar definitions for repair as well. So I think ultimately my concerns about the preservation of old structures are the exact same ones that Mr. Jacobson has, and I would just ask for him to have a bit of faith in the intent of the people who have worked on this.
Thank you very much. I want to turn over to the director, but before I do, I want to get back to Alderperson Johnson, or President Johnson rather. You mentioned that you had an amendment proposal. Mute.
Unmute.
The classic term, you're on mute. So I shall start again because I was on mute. On page 181, I would like to make a motion to amend 30.04 paren 4, sentence 2. I would like to amend it to read, in addition, one open-sided accessory building of up to 170 square feet is allowed. End of sentence. And then strike the rest of that sentence where it says on zoning lots that are 20,000 square feet or larger. We now have, we changed our zoning code to have minimum lot sizes of 5,000 square feet. And so as such, 5,000 square foot home or lot, this literally would disallow even a 10 by 10 sort of pergola or awning to go over a patio area. So because of the way we have been moving towards more condensed lots, smaller lots, and that would be my motion.
Okay, do we have a second on that? Alder Shore seconds that motion. Discussion will now be limited to the motion to amend only. Any comments regarding the motion to amend? Director Konoski.
Thank you, Mayor. City staff has reviewed the request and has no objections to the amendment as proposed. In fact, this has been an ongoing issue within our building code that's limited folks and their ability to construct open-aired pergolas and shelters on their properties.
Thank you. Any comments relating to the motion to amend? Seeing none, I think we'll take a voice vote. If you are in, the motion is to strike the words on zoning lots that are 20,000 square feet or larger. All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Are there any opposed? Seeing no opposition, the amendment is adopted. And now back to discussion on the motion as amended. Director Konoski, I will turn it over to you for comments.
Thank you, Mayor. I have two comments to make regarding some of the previous residents and their comments on the Chapter 30 rewrite. I am probably one of the classic examples. I bought a big, beautiful home on Clark Street. I gutted the kitchen down to the studs. My kitchen still had knob and tube wiring. And although there were times where I disagreed with my building inspection department, I had to bring the kitchen up to proper electrical codes. A good example there is having receptacles, I believe within 2 or 3 feet of the kitchen sink on both sides. And part of that purpose is to prevent folks from having extension cords in their kitchen, which is prone to electrical shock, among other things. And so, you know, I commend my inspection department for understanding where code needs to be updated, especially in 100-year-old houses on Clark Street. That's my first point, and probably the most important point I'm about to make relates to some of the comments that the previous speakers have made regarding my inspection division. I have had the pleasure of working for a few other municipalities, and DJ Jimena and Scott Amernick in my inspection division are top-notch. They understand the code. They work with contractors as much as they reasonably can within the code. I'm not going to say we're perfect and that we do everything correctly out of the gate. When we interpret code, there is pages and pages and chapters and sections and references that these folks know either off the top of their head or they're willing to go back and look at it. The concept that contractors are leaving the community to go work elsewhere because they can't stand our inspections department is probably due to the fact that they're running into issues because they're not installing things or doing things correctly to code. And our job as the inspection division, the community development department, is to ensure that codes are being properly applied out in the field for life and safety purposes. If there's a contractor who has an issue with how we interpret life and safety things within our municipal code, I don't want them working in our community, because in a few years that may come back and haunt us. So I know Jimena's name was mentioned and DJ's name. These folks are top notch. And I've taken complaints, I've talked through them, and we've had these conversations, and they know what they're talking about, and they understand how the code should be applied. Finally, decisions are not made in a vacuum in the community development department. If there's issues and interpretation concerns, DJ doesn't go off out in left field and make a decision. There is consultation with the community development director, consultation with the commercial building inspector, consultation with the folks at the state, consultation with the city attorney. And so there's a number of safeguards within the code and within the department itself to ensure that not one person is sitting at the top of the hill making all of the decisions. So I strongly recommend the council adopt the change Chapter 30 code itself. And I know DJ's on this call. He's more than happy to answer any other questions that the council may have. But that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Alder Dalton, you had your hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to continue some of the further questioning that was brought up by the citizens. I really appreciate that this code comes forth with an update to come into line with the state code and the work that's done to make sure that everything is aligned appropriately. And I was a little disturbed during the general government meeting when it was stated that the definition of repair hasn't changed, when I have both the existing Chapter 30 and the rewrite in front of me, and the definitions are in fact different. And I think that is kind of one of the cruxes of the issues that was brought up. My house was built in 1891. It's balloon framed. I have rafters. If a single rafter is failing and needs to be repaired, according to the new definition, I would need to tear the roof off my house and install a truss in order to bring it up to the new uniform dwelling code. And I think that is the exact situation that that I'm afraid of, that puts homeowners who may not have a really in-depth knowledge of what they're getting into as they embark upon repairs of their home, especially structural components that are kind of critical to it being a dwelling for them. And I think that, I guess I would just like to hear why exactly the definition of repair was changed. And while I do have faith and, I have worked with the inspections department outside of the role here on council, that there will be, good intentions and a willingness to work with contractors in our city. This code lives beyond us and the current staff. And so I think is only our job to consider that somebody who comes after DJ or after Director Kukowski may have a different interpretation and may not have any concern or care for the valuable old housing stock and the materials with which it was constructed. And so I'm not supportive of this current code as it is. And I would like to hear more about the changing definition of repair. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderperson Dalton. In the interest of transparency and full disclosure, could you please define your relationship with contractor Orrin Jacobson?
Orrin Jacobson is my partner.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Alder Kneebone.
Yes, I have a comment for Attorney Beveridge. It's real hard to get from the leg bone to the hip bone without the knee bone. And in that regard, I'm going to say I do not feel that having to get a permit to have my gas water heater replaced, which I didn't know I had to do and had to pay a fine, to make sure someone comes in and says, yes, it was hooked up correctly, you aren't going to blow up your house or your neighbor's house. I think it's really important that we have a permitting process to have minimum standards. Homeowners insurance are going to look real foul if I have my brother-in-law, who's an engineer, replace my electrical system and my house burns down. They're not likely going to want pay for that. And I also don't think that a permit is amounts to unreasonable search and seizure, or that it needs a warrant to come into my house. I don't feel that my Fourth Amendment rights are being violated by having someone come in after and say, yes, the contractor actually did the work the right way. You can rest assured that your plumbing is right, your electricity is right. It's not going to burn down. It's not going to flood. In my mind, it's cheap insurance, a permit. Thank you.
Thank you. Alder Nabel.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'd like to also cue in on this. Usually I'm kind of really nervous about changes and things with our codes. And this, I think they've done a great job on this. And I want to say that for anybody to ever think that we don't have the best inspectors, we are very fortunate. I've had so many students that have come to me with houses with problems that I have contacted the inspector.
Alderperson, I understand that we want to defend our staff, but please keep our comments to the zoning code rewrite.
Okay, I do believe.
Building code rewrite.
Right, I do believe that this code rewrite is to our advantage to have these permits, because there's been so many things that in the past hadn't been done this way, that we have some of the messes we have now that DJ is trying to undo, and you can't go backwards on a lot of these. And we have a mess with a lot of housing already, and we need to have permits to make sure things are safe.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? Seeing and hearing none, the motion before you is to approve the Chapter 30 Building Code rewrite as amended. If you're in favor, vote yes. If you are opposed, vote no. And Clerk Yenter, please call the roll.
Morrow,
Aye.
Fischler, Fischler,
There we go.
Hi, sorry, I'm having some computer problems.
Dalton,
No.
Leek,
Aye.
Kneebone,
Aye.
Slowinski,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Zarazua,
Aye.
Nabel,
Aye.
Shore,
Aye.
Jennings.
Aye.
By majority consent, the ordinance amendment is adopted. On page 194, item number 26 is a resolution supporting increased funding for the state shared revenue program. Need a motion? President Johnson.
Motion to approve that resolution.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Seconded by Jennings. Discussion? Alder Shore.
Thank you, Mayor. This resolution really connects the dots of a lot of the things we've been talking about tonight, and really fills in the big picture of our city finances. We come under a lot of criticism about how we handled the budget, and how taxes have gone up. But that bigger picture is that we've been put in this position. If you look at the state support for municipalities, it has gone down so much. We've kind of been put in the position of being the heavy. I want to say that whenever I make these decisions about investments in development agreements or properties or developments, that's always with a mind towards a combination of making this a community that more people want to live in, so that we kind of beat those demographic pressures and don't, grow older and don't replenish our workforce, and strengthening our tax base for the revenue, for the budgets, for the people who are going to come after us. And we've talked a lot about some of the constraints that we're under state law. And here, this is a chance for us to use our voice and say how frustrated we are by this financial position. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I'd like to echo what Alder Shore said, being that the city for years and years just keeps getting less and less money, and potholes still need to be filled, trash still needs to get up, police officers need to end up getting paid, city services still need to end up being done. And so we're often caught in a bind as how do we fulfill these services still? I mean, everybody says cut, 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 but then do we cut this or this? And no one's raising their hand to get cut. No one's willing to go without any services. I mean, you don't get something for nothing. There's a reason why you live in the city. There's a reason why you like sewers, you like water. I mean, you don't have to rely on wells. You don't have to rely on a septic tank. I mean, these are the things that people expect in a city. If you want to live in Hull or whatever, and you want a well and you don't want sewers, that's fine. But if you live in the city, these things still take money. And that's one of the advantages of living in a city, is that you have these kinds of services for everybody. I have yet to meet someone who wants to have a septic tank in the yard that lives in the city. This is why we moved here. And our funding gets cut every single year. And we still have to make up that cost at some point somewhere. So I think it's glad that the League of Municipalities is actually doing this. So I'm in full support.
Thank you, Alderperson. And I'm going to chance it to say that you are the only Alderperson in the history of history that stated the phrase, "I like sewers."
Yes.
Any other comments?
Thank you, Mayor.
Alder Kneebone.
Building on what Alder Shore said, I won't speak for anybody else on the council, but I'm on a fixed income now, being retired. And believe me, I watch my property tax bill very carefully. Every decision we make to spend money, I think about how that's going to affect my property taxes and my ability not to be taxed out of my house. If we don't get some kind of relief on that, I see this happening down the line. We will continue to have to raise property taxes to provide services, or cut staff, or stop services. And then you start to get to where you're looking at a segment of your population that could lose their housing just because of property taxes. So I support this as well. It gets harder and harder every year to do what we have to do and provide the services people expect from the city. So thank you for this.
Thank you, Alderperson. How do you feel about sewers? Kidding,
I
of course.
appreciate mine, believe me. And I do like turning on the water tap and knowing that there's not going to be lead in there and that it's actually going to work.
We just got done with trivia weekend, so I'm very fond of our sewer system as well. Any other comments? Hearing none. If you're in favor of the motion, you'll vote yes. If you are opposed, vote no. And I'll ask Clerk Yenter to once again call the roll.
Jennings.
Aye.
Shore.
Aye.
Nabel.
Aye.
Zarazua.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Slowinski.
Aye.
Kneebone.
Aye.
Leak.
Aye.
Dalton.
Aye.
Fischler.
Aye.
Morrow.
Aye.
Unanimous consent, that is approved. Item number 27 is something that we don't look forward to ever. This is very often a thankless job. It takes a certain type of person with thick skin and a generous amount of passion to represent people in the city of Stevens Point as their alderperson. Earlier today, I stopped off. I hope she found it on her chair. We did contact list drop off. Presented Alderperson Nabel with a commendation. It said, in recognition of your dedicated public service as alderperson for the city of Stevens Point's Common Council, the people of the city of Stevens Point extend their profound appreciation and sincere gratitude to Cindy Nabel, who has served from April 2017 till April 2021. And I will now turn the floor over to Alderperson Nabel for her parting comments.
And this time I'll unmute myself. Thank you, Mayor, and everybody for the plaque. And I know I keep bending it the right direction to get it showing. I feel like, I want to say just a couple things because it's been a long night, and so I will make it very short, believe it or not. I want to thank you all for my fellow alders and friends and colleagues and departments, city workers that I've worked with for these last 4 years. I leave on this, my final council meeting, with two things, gratitude and hope. I have gratitude for the 4 years that I was able to try to do for my District 3 to represent my neighbors, which was a diverse group of students and families, homeowners, renters. I ran because I wanted to help preserve, and I wanted also to improve this diverse neighborhood that I've lived in for over 40 years. I've seen it decline over these years from a mixed family use with lots of elderly members, with younger families and with students, and all helping each other and working together. And I loved it. But in the past years, I saw it also decline from that mixed use to an even more increasing number of homes that, as people grew elderly and moved out of their homes or passed away, that they became rentals, and the risk of decline in maintenance just kept on going. I have a commitment to these neighborhoods. I love Stevens Point. I love living in an area where I've lived for this many years. As a younger child, we moved a lot. So neighborhood meant a lot to me. So it was important to me to try to improve the living and quality of lives for those that were living in this neighborhood. It began with the elderly people that we had in our neighborhood that sometimes didn't feel like they could talk to the students themselves about their concerns or worries. And it felt good to be able to do that. Well, now my husband and I are the older people, and I still enjoy the students. And as much as sometimes there are problems, I find that I wanted to work hard for them too, so that they also could feel that they were in a community that cared about them, and I'd want that for my own family and my own children. I've gotten to know a lot of students, and I've gone to a lot of weddings, and I've gotten invited to lots of graduations, and really met some really unique, wonderful people. Students are great. We have problems at times, and I've worked really hard on those so that the good students aren't always blamed for a lot of it. But my student neighbors are great. And I've learned that it's very difficult as an alder to reverse some of the things. First, to reverse the stereotypical things that people had about students. And that took me being involved with the Labor of Love with the university for over 25 years to get my older residents to let students do things in their yards or help them out with things, just so they know that they really are good people. And it helps. And I also introduced the fact of being a neighbor and making that opportunity to meet your people that are living near you, whether they're your age or older or students, because we all need to work together. And that's how we have a better place to live. And that's how we improve the quality of life, even if it isn't always our houses. I don't want to live in a gated community. I would like maintenance, but I want my students to live in safe homes, and as well as what they talked about today. So ordinances are very important to me. I say goodbye also with gratitude for those who have helped me learn the city system, which is amazing. The department heads who have cared and taken the time to explain things to me when I didn't know who you go to for this or that. I learned an awful lot. So even as not going to be an alder, I will still be able to help my neighbors as much as I can on giving them answers of who do they need to call. Not Ghostbusters, but the city departments, and I know who they are. I thank you for the constituents and my neighbors, my friends that have really believed in me and really wanted me to continue. But I realize that it's time for somebody new. And this along, I say goodbye with hope, because as I continue to work with Friends of Emerson, which Ginger Keemer is involved in and how I met her, I'm hoping that it will help our surrounding neighborhoods and that it will bring our neighborhoods to become more desirable and change the way that people see our housing and maybe invest in it by redeveloping or rehabbing like we did with our house. Because it is a great area to be in with the Jefferson School and the university. It is a wonderful area in the heart of the city. So I leave this, but I also leave tonight with great hope, because Ginger Keemer is going to be your new alder, is your new alder, and I know her, and I know that she is dedicated and she is committed to the district and the city and the residents here. And I want to thank you all again for working with me, putting up with me and my emotionalness about the city and about neighborhoods and how I get so strong about them. I say the same thing all the time, and I know you guys must roll your eyes. My husband does too, but I know I'm leaving you in good hands, and I thank you all. I hope I still get to see you around still. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alderperson Nabel. We appreciate your service more than you know.
Thank you.
With that, it brings us to item number 28, which is entering into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.85 sub 1 sub E and 19.85 sub 1 sub G for deliberating or negotiating the purchase of public properties, investing of public funds, or conducting other specified business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, and for conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning that strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or likely to become involved in relating to the following: a discussion on a possible incentive for a development at 5700 EM Cops Drive. I would need a motion to go into closed session. President Johnson.
Motion to enter into closed session pursuant to the statute that was
Thank
cited.
you. We have a second by Alderperson Leek. If you
That's
are in
right.
favor of going into closed session, you'll vote yes. If you are opposed, vote no. We will not be returning into open session. So Clerk Yenter, please call the roll.
Morrow,
Aye.
Fischler,
We didn't hear that, Fischler.
Aye.
Dalton,
No.
Leek,
Aye.
Kneebone,
Aye.
Flowinski,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Zarazua,
Aye.
Nabel,
Aye.
Shore.
Aye.
Jennings.
Aye.
Thank you. We're now going to go into closed session. Alderperson-elect Keemer, you are very welcome to stay. Alderperson Nabel, you are also welcome to stay, or if you choose to, you can bow out. As I said, we will not be going back into open session. So.
A video of this meeting is available for viewing on the city's website, stevenspoint.com/videos.